Hey, happy Wednesday. How the devil are you, beautiful bunch? I flipping love this song.
Lucky because I'm playing the full 1 minute version.
Good. It's vibey. Yeah. I realise that middle-aged white guys shouldn't say the word vibey, but I'm going with it. I've started, so I have to finish. Good morning, gang. Or good evening, or good afternoon, depends on where you're tuned in. Around the world, welcome to the Winners Club. Breakfast with winners. Or maybe it's dinner with winners, wherever you are. Wherever you are, whoever you are, we flipping love you. Thanks for being here. We appreciate you massively. Good morning. It is Wednesday here in the United Kingdom, which could mean only one thing. Well, it could mean a few things, couldn't it? But frankly, in our world, it only means one thing. It means it's time for the weekly debate, the weekly conversation all around the world of Web3 and crypto, where we dispel and demystify the wonderful and wacky world of Web3. Well, that would be a good little tagline, wouldn't it? Distilling and what did I say? Distilling and demystifying the weird and wacky world of Web3. That is good. So I haven't got many skills, but bullshit is one of them.
Sorry,
frankly.
I'm doing stuff that Ashley should be doing, but he's not here, so
Ashley's gone.
sort of listening,
guys.
and
Ashley's man down. We can neither confirm nor deny the ailment, but it's a persistent cough and a high temperature.
we've got a serious issue within the team, haven't we, at the moment? Like,
We've got a few.
just not fucking turning up. We can swear because it's early and the kids aren't in the school. To school at 6:30, are they? So we can swear. But
if you are taking the kids to school at 6:30, you're a savage as a parent, and I respect it.
do you know what? The guy I tell you about that works for ICAP, the relatively wealthy guy. Well, he's wealthier than I am anyway, so he's relatively wealthy.
Well, rich then.
They send their kids. Well, they used to. She used to go to a private school. She used to get on the train, on the coach, like the bus, the school bus that used to pick her up, 6:15 in the morning.
6:15?
Yeah.
That is savage.
Obviously, she's now at university, so but for her whole schooling career, she was getting on the school bus at 6:15 a.m.
6:15. You're allowed to do that these days? That's pretty like
the other people in the
abuse,
family used to have a lot to say about them.
Yeah, I bet they did.
From a parenting perspective. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm sure they did.
If you're in the room, bear with us while we arrange the audience and the stage. We're trying to do it ourselves and press all of the buttons here in the studio. There is a link pinned to the top of the room. We're live on YouTube. So you can see the feed directly into the studio by clicking on that link that's pinned at the top, and then click on YouTube. You should be able to see us there as well. So we're going to organise the stage and do all of that good stuff. Just bear with us whilst we do that.
Also, a caveat and a warning, as always, whenever we put the word crypto into a title, yeah, we do it because it's clickbaitable, but you also get some of the sharkatons out there, and they'll come and swim into the DMs and be like, hey guys, have you wanted to get 10x returns on a daily basis? Then go and click on my link. Don't click the flipping link. Them people are idiots, all right? You've been warned. Don't knock about with idiots. Only knock about with the nice gang.
Toby Slade's had a photo shoot.
Yeah, hasn't he? Toby Slade, I've got to be honest though, Toby Slade was a lot better looking a man than I expected him to be when we met him in. That's the most backhanded compliment of all time. The geezer's like, he's rugged, isn't he? He's handsome to the point where it like pisses me off. He's that good looking.
With a new photo.
Yeah, look at that. Go and check out Toby's down. In fact, you know what? Let's mod him up. So you can't. Here you go. Let's give him the green bean. He will be hating this as well, won't he? He's not really a fan of attention, is he, old Toby? He will be hating this. There you go. Look at that. Second row down in the middle. Jesus Christ. And imagine that guy's 6 and a bit foot and walking around about 10% body fat as well. So, ladies or gents, whichever your denomination, the geezer's a weapon. And a lovely man as well, isn't he? He's got the whole thing going on. When I grow up, I want to be Toby Slade. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, this morning we are going to be...
I wonder if he thinks the same.
Hey?
I wonder if he feels the same.
I very much doubt it. Why would you, if you are the steak, why would you want to be the slightly ratty, receding, eagle-looking burger? That's me, not him, by the way. I do look like an eagle from the side, though. I'm a lot less good looking than I am in my own mind, which is a bit of a downside. But there you go. Anyway, this morning we are going to be dispelling some crypto myths because, as always, me and Captain Crypto, when we're not sat here in the studio, when we're not doing sort of day job work, we are pretty much spending 90% of our time, other than sort of like in the waking hours, in the spare time that you got, learning about crypto. And the more you learn about it, the more you realize that you don't know. And the more you learn about it, the more you realize that actually there's a huge amount of misinformation out there. There's a lot of stuff which isn't actually true. There's a lot of false narratives at play. There's a lot of stuff that you need to be aware of. You know, if you've been in this room for any length of time now, or you've been looking into the world of Web3, you've probably heard terms like rug pull and gas fees and all this kind of stuff. So today on the show, we're going to kind of dispel some of the popularized myths, like crypto is going to kill the polar bears, because it's probably not going to kill any polar bears.
Don't get me started on that one.
Well, you said you wanted to do this subject, so we're going to have to get onto that one.
You say when we're doing our day job, my day job seems to have become crypto.
This is you're up to big things, aren't you? Like as a collective gang, we're having a little dabble, but you're going all in, aren't you? You're doing like fun. Are you talking about it yet?
Well, you've just set me up to talk about it.
Would you like to talk about that? Because I can back us back up. I'm a lyrical wizard. Think of me like an MC.
Yeah, the only thing I'm worried about, this can be a test. Usually when we say stuff, people go
copy it.
To some extent, copy it.
I don't think someone could copy landing 200 machines in a space that they've got dormant in a basement.
No, fair.
So I think this one's more
basement. So yeah, we spoke. We had Josh Riddit on, didn't we? He was one of the first sort of crypto rooms we've done, and he came in and spoke about advisor to the EU Parliament.
That's right.
He came on and spoke about crypto mining. So since then, and there was a lot of people that sort of reached out to me and said, "Oh, that listened to that." I was like, "Oh, we'd love to get involved in mining of some extent," but still, the barrier to entry was quite high. It wasn't high for people that. Well, 20.
It's high if you're not focusing
20,
on it.
20 grand barrier to entry as an investment for some people that just want to dabble was still what I would class as a high barrier to entry.
Step too far, isn't it?
Yeah. So there was
if you're a dabbler.
Yeah. So I've spent on and off doing a few different things, but just spent some time trying to think and work through some ways in which that barrier to entry could be removed for a significant mining operation. Crypto mining operation, which I think I've done.
Paul doesn't do things by halves. So most people entering into this world would sort of like tentatively put their foot in the water, maybe, like I'm going to get a machine. Maybe I'm going to roll the dice. I'm going to do an 18K roll of the dice. I'm going to get myself a machine. Some who are really out there might go, do you know what? I got 50K sat there. I was going to put it into a SIP or a SAS or one of them other nonsense pension things that are not going to pay you out by the time you get to the age of needing it. Story for another show. Maybe I'm going to get 2 machines. I'm going to go for it. Not many people. This is the conversation I had with Paul yesterday. Hey, dear mate, you all right? Yeah, I'm all right. I'm just trying to work out a layout of something. I need 200 double sockets. Sorry? I need 200 double sockets. What do you need 200 double sockets for? Because I'm going to put 200 machines in my basement. Okay, cool. So you might need to explain the context of what you're looking at.
We've got capacity for 200. I'm not going to get there straight away. It's going to be done over a period of time. But yes, I'm going to put 200 GPU mining machines, which are graphic card based for those people that don't understand. I know there's some technical people in there. Ami's here, so she'll probably give a far more elegant explanation of that than I just did. But there's GPU based mining machines, up to 200 of them, into my basement, and I'm going to fractionalize that by allowing people to buy an NFT, and the NFT gets you your equivalent share of the mining pool rewards that are generated. Basically, all the proceeds that are generated from that mine go back to the NFT holders. So that's basically what I'm doing. So there's a lot more complexities built into that than that was made to sound really simple. But yeah, effectively 200 machines is a lot in terms of, mining operation size that most people have. So we'll be generating significant sort of crypto returns per month. And the way I'm going to fractionalize that is have a very small buy-in for NFT holders.
So as you mentioned before, because previous to this, the sort of the lowest end buy-in, you were really looking at sort of like 20 odd grand, aren't you, realistically, to get a machine that has got enough clout. We talked about on a previous podcast, the computational. Oh no, it's in this week's podcast, guys. That was not an accidental plug. not a deliberate plug, that was completely accidental. We talk about mining on this week's Understanding Crypto podcast. We'll put a link at the top of the screen at some point. We were talking about the computational power that is required to mine Bitcoin. And since 2009, they did a survey.
Bitcoin mining machines are specific to Bitcoin.
Yes.
So the difference with GPU mining machines is you can put them to work across
any network,
almost all other blockchains.
Yeah.
Whereas Bitcoin mining machines are specific
for that.
Yeah, and wouldn't work across other ones.
Yeah. And with those machines, from 2009 to 2019, there was a survey that we were reading where we did the podcast a couple of weeks ago. The computational power needed to now mine a Bitcoin is 12 trillion times the power that it needed in 2009. So it's become quite a feat to mine these things. And it's not the sort of thing you can just like use your flipping Virgin Media ropey Wi-Fi and leave your laptop on overnight and get some coins.
You could, but you wouldn't get much rewards.
Yeah, it wouldn't be probably worth the cost of the electricity right now. So to do something like what you're looking at doing is very much more substantial. When you're saying that you're going to make it fractionalized, explain that for people.
Yeah, so the obviously, if you buy a physical machine, the physical machine, like I say, is £20,000 sterling, around that sort of money by the time you install it, for these particular ones that have got the best bang for the buck, so to speak. So that's really difficult to try and fractionalize in the normal sense. So and this is, do you know what, we've spoke about this constantly throughout the duration of the podcast, in as much as real world use cases for NFTs.
Yeah.
You know, people look at an NFT and say, oh, it's just a piece of artwork. But what actually is behind the scenes of the NFT? What's the use case for it? What's the utility that you get for it? You know, what's the actual business that's there? So this is an example of how to put a real world use case. I've got an empty basement that's just sitting empty, that can't be occupied by humans because it's got asbestos pipes running through it. So in order to put people in there, there'd have to be a significant refurbishment to the space, plus it's a basement, so it's low quality space anyway. So at the moment it's just full of, well, you've seen some of it, it's full of old coffee shop machinery I had for a coffee shop that I had once. It's almost like a you know, like your wife, my museum.
It's like, you know, people have memory boxes.
Well, sort of like your time capsule.
It's like it's like the evolution of football. What did he do? Had a building company. He then decided he was going to do some coffee stuff. There's basically an entire coffee shop in that basement.
Well, there's part of it, yeah. So it's just full of rubbish, really. But it shouldn't be. It should be put to use. But it's difficult, you know.
What could you like storage? That's pretty much it.
Then as storage, it's got a very low yield.
Yeah.
It's not. You're not. And I've been obsessed in this whole particular building. So to set the context, we've got 150-ish thousand square foot of commercial office space that's refurbished, and I guess people would say it's a horrible term, sweating the asset, but getting the most out of the space. And we certainly get the most pound for pound out of the space by the refurbishments, the type of use cases we have, the quality of the office in the area. So it's our business model is to get the best use of the space. And it's been annoying me for years that we just don't get the best use out of that basement. But equally, to go and raise funds to launch a mining operation at that scale, you know, let's put this in context. 200 machines is £3.5 million, there or thereabouts, with, you know, plus including the costs of sort of renewable energy and installation of the electrics and all that type of stuff. So that's significant money to attempt to go and raise if you was going to a bank. A bank probably wouldn't touch it anyway and wouldn't be interested.
One of those asset classes where it doesn't really exist at the moment.
Yeah, so then you could go to some private individuals. You could probably go to some private individuals and raise, you know, a fair proportion of that, or I probably could with some of the contacts I've got from my property development background. So you could choose to do that route, but then only a few are benefiting from it, which I still didn't like. So by doing it like this, you could, you know, most NFTs have 10,000 NFTs in their as a launch in a range, just like a standard number that most NFTs go for. There's some with less, but usually it's about that. So if you just do simple maths and you put a value on an NFT of 350 quid, well then that makes people's ability to buy into a project like that affordable. And for many. And then what NFT gives back crypto? Well, there are some out there that give back rewards, but not significant rewards. You know, if you're talking that many mining machines, Over the course of 3 to 5 years, there'd be significant returns into the mining pool. You can't guarantee what those returns are, but the fact that there's 200 machines working all of the time, or put to work all of the time, they'll generate a significant pool of crypto assets over their lifespan, over their period of time. So then it becomes easy, doesn't it? Because if the NFT holder gets a fractionalized share relative to their amount of NFTs that they hold, well, it's easy to work out how that pool is distributed. And then you can go one step further as creating that as a DAO, which is what I'm doing, so that the top NFT holders become voting members and can vote in terms of how that mining operation works and some of the decisions that are made, et cetera. So it's a crossroad of all of those technologies coming together to put to use some real world property space that's sitting empty at the moment.
Absolutely brilliant. And what a great idea, what a great concept, and what a great use of a great real world use case right now, which actually combines all the best bits of Web3 with all the, I guess, the most valuable parts of it. Because again, as you mentioned, the NFT space is very, very misunderstood, in that everyone thinks, oh, it's a piece of art, or it's, and I know you've built in some sort of like sort of scarcity and generative elements to it as well. So you kind of got all of the best bits of it. You mentioned about I know we've talked previously, and if people have been listening into these conversations that we've been having for a little while, I know one of the things that you were looking at doing was being fully renewable, i.e. putting solar in on the building to make it run the mine. What have you discovered when you've now done some looking into how crap solar panels are versus how much usage you would need out of these machines?
Look, before we caveat, because you've done a typical journalism route there and set me up for a fall.
No, I'm trying to set you up for a win.
Before we caveat this, because I know people will be moaning, there is significant energy use involved. So let's just say that there's like,
it's significant as any other.
Yeah, if you plug 200 computers.
Yeah.
But let's look at it for what it actually is, right? This building could have, and it hasn't, but if you looked at the capacity of desks that we have in this building. So we're looking out at an office directly through the window of this studio, which is our office, okay? And that could be a 6 to 8 person office.
Yeah.
So that could have 6 to 8 computers in there. Well, there's not. There's 3 in there at the moment. There's other offices I have here that are 4 person offices, and they've got 1 person in there, 1 computer, because that tenant's decided just to take a nice big office for themselves and put 1 computer in there. So this building could have, I think we've actually got about 550 desk spaces.
Is it really?
In the building.
Right, okay.
So you could have 550 PCs at work.
Yeah.
Plus printers, plus all of the other stuff that goes on. But there's not that. There's less than 100 probably in terms of physical computer machines. So put that back into context. If you're plugging in 200 computers, which is what this is, you would have significant energy increase anyway. But you've got to put that in context. Everyone will say, well, it's a mining operation, just generate significant amounts of electric. But so could putting people in an office as well.
Yeah, of course.
So it's all relative. But when you look at the environmental impact of stuff like mining, and this is one of the myths, because that's why we called this myth busting, is that cryptocurrency is not environmentally friendly. Well, yes, there's energy usage involved, so that could be reduced where possible and should be reduced where possible. But when you actually start looking into it, how much energy is used just for everyday data usage, hosting your website. How much energy is used for hosting your website?
Yeah.
How much energy do data centers use? How much energy does Google use? When I started looking into this, the internet accounts for about 20% of the global carbon emissions globally, to put that in context. And cryptocurrency currently is accountable and by some far more clever people than I am at universities, by their recognition, cryptocurrency is about 0.2% of global carbon emissions.
As opposed to 20 of the generalised internet.
So Web 2, as we know it, the general internet, is equivalent for about 20% of global carbon emissions.
Yeah.
So these myths and this, because you had a movement in EU Parliament a couple of weeks ago, where they tried to not ban mining operations, but almost put some regulation on it, which was thrown out and actually reworded into a way that's far more acceptable, to say that steps will have to be made to make use of green energy to power operations like that. But targets and crosshairs are at sight on the crypto industry for whatever reason, and this is big organizations and big tech.
They don't want us to fight the power man
on operations to assassinate the new big tech, which is coming up and replacing it. But actually, when you start looking into it, it's nowhere near what it's made out to sound like.
But sorry, the walking you down the garden path there was not to make you have to give a political answer about your energy usage. It was basically to say, so you looked at solar. And panels just cannot power.
Yeah, so if you was to put solar panels on the roof to give constant power to one of the machines, you'd need 10 solar panels.
To one machine.
And
these are fairly energy efficient machines at this point in time.
Yeah.
These are it's the equivalent of running a really, really powerful gamer.
Yes, solar panels in general at the moment are really inefficient. So you have to have huge amounts to make a real dent. You know, if you see
you need 2,000 panels to run 200 machines.
Yeah, which I'm obviously not going to have here, am I? No. Plus, not to mention the cost, should be £500,000 worth of solar installation.
Yeah.
So that just so there's other ways in which you can reduce energy costs. There will be an element, and I will put as many solar panels as I can get on the roof. So there'll be an element of that. Plus, there'll be an element of using brokering deals with renewable energy suppliers so that we're supplied actual true green energy as opposed to just being told we are. So there's other stuff that you can do. You can use, gas engine to power electricity, which most electricity is generated in this country by gas anyway. So there's all sorts of elements that you could do to try and get the electrical cost down, especially when you've got that much capacity to play with.
What are you you mentioned that the 200 units will obviously be over time. What are you thinking as a first run? Have you got something in mind? You could do. What are you going to do? A little 20?
Yeah, but there's a global supply issue on all things anyway, isn't there? But there's specifically a global supply on graphics cards.
Right.
So, or not a shortage, a delay. So the machines are like a 12-week lead time anyway from the supplier.
Are they?
Yeah, so we'll be getting them, and they couldn't deliver 200 in one go anyway. Yeah. So we'll be getting them in batches. So they'll probably arrive in batches of 10, I would say, over a sort of just a sustained period of time. So it's going to happen quite quickly. Yeah,
you should bring people in
the next couple of weeks.
You should, like, potential NFT holders should come here for a meet. They could meet Captain Crypto, and you could walk them downstairs to your basement. If you'd like to come and see Paul's basement, please flash your mic. I'd like to see who's interested to come and have a look at Paul's basement. There's no flashing. Okay, that's fine. Oh, no, Nichelle wants to come down. Oh, Dale wants to come down. Okay. Oh, they're all coming out of the wood right now. Dave's coming down. Joel's coming down. Sejal's coming down. There you go. You've got a tour. Oh, I have got no real tangible usage to you in this building, but I used to be a holiday. You know the annoying guys on the bus when you get off a plane? They're like, we're going to a resort now. I was that guy. Unsurprisingly, would you like me?
So you could do a guided tour.
Would you like me to be the official Captain Crypto tour guide?
You could try if you wanted.
Okay, so I could like warm them up and then have a bit of a build up. We could get some smoke machines so you can walk into the meeting room, ladies and gentlemen. Captain Crypto, smoke machine. You see what I'm going for here?
Yeah,
you liking it? Take some time.
Anyway, but I'm just more pleased that it's actually a creation of an NFT that's going to actually give people back some returns, as opposed to. Plus, the NFT may go up in value, but that's
because you've actually built something into that as well, haven't you?
So it's going to be a generative art. It's going to be generative art based. Which
say generative art 5 times fast.
Generative art. No, I can't. It's impossible, isn't it? So it's going to be generative art based, just to add some novelty to it. So
okay.
So yeah, there's a concept behind the artwork, and there'll be some rarity built into that and all sorts of stuff. So from a collectibles perspective, that might have an impact on that. That might work. It might not work. I don't.
But the actual value in the asset is what the NFT delivers to people via the smart contract, not via the piece of art.
Yeah, it's well expected that if somebody was to purchase one NFT at £350, that within 12 to 18 months, they've
got their money back.
The value of that NFT has been returned in alternative crypto assets to the wallet that they signed up with. Yeah, so you get via the distribution model that's going to be set up. Yeah.
So this is the other thing that's important to understand. So if we sort of go into the mining conversation again, we've done an episode on this. It's like 18 minutes. It's a short episode that we've done on the podcast this week, and it's really interesting because it actually sort of demystified a lot of the myths around mining and what mining is and what mining isn't. And one of the most important things that we sort of looked at was how people actually understand what mining can be and what it can do. And as we mentioned at the beginning, because of the computational power required for Bitcoin, mining Bitcoin now has generally been done by bigger organizations rather than individual nodes on the network, if that makes sense. But there's still a huge amount of opportunity out there with mining. You do have to, but you're effectively, when you're mining, you are doing some work on behalf of the network, and you get rewarded for the work that you've done effectively.
Yeah, what makes cryptocurrency secure is that the mathematical equations or the mathematical calculations are done via a collection of a distributed network of computers. So not one place, not one central place, not one central server, not one central location. It's a distributed network. So that effectively people are volunteering computer power to the network to be able to do these calculations, and they're all these little computers are competing with each other to be first to solve the riddle that is the mathematics that goes into it basically. And then when they're rewarded and they've completed the block on the blockchain, you get rewarded in whatever native currency that mining machine is solving the riddle in. So if that's sitting at the moment on, say, Ethereum and doing an Ethereum calculation and working on the Ethereum network, you'll get paid in ETH. So there's lots of different currencies that can be mined. It's not just there's not just one or two.
So you can choose what to mine then. So say for example, there's a new coin and they're giving a really good rate to people who are using their nodes for that currency. Let's say for example, like Rally, who are power a lot of the creator coins.
So not all currencies are mined.
Right.
First of all, some are. So
retract that, guys. Forget anything I said. Anything.
So not all currencies are mined, but some are, some aren't. So you have to.
So would it be the currency that Rally sits on?
Rally's Ethereum. Rally sits on Ethereum. So
you'd have to be
deep down. Ethereum is
what's powering it.
Is powering it, and Ethereum is mined. Now Ethereum is moving to proof of stake, but it has been for 5 years, and they keep delaying it. So we never know what's going to happen there.
Yeah.
So there'll become a point where Ethereum is no longer mined, but Ethereum Classic, which is the original version of Ethereum, will continue to be. So there's lots of intricacies to it, but there's not just Ethereum. There's all sorts of other coins that are mined.
But you could point your mind.
And this is the thing so proof of stake in theory is an alternative way of solving that riddle without using mining, but it's less secure. So there's pros and cons, and who knows where crypto Web3 mining is going to be in 10 years time. It might not be a thing in 10 years time, but the point of this is that it does not going to take 10 years for people to get a return on their what they've paid for an NFT if they're there on the initial mint and it's at the early stages. So it's providing a crypto return, and actually the way it works is that it's not it's hard to describe until you start looking into it. But say you're given, and this is where the compounded interest comes in, but say a mining operation mines 2 ETH. Well, 2 ETH today at the moment is whatever that's worth, right?
Yeah.
$6,000 or whatever it is. Okay, but if ETH goes to $10,000, well, now you've got a non-linear return on that 2 ETH that you originally mined, that you're getting for free, by the way. So, well, not for free, but the mining pool is self-generating that.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
So mining
is basically it's like creating the equivalent of creating a crypto data center. Let's put it. Everyone knows a data center where we all have an internet, a web page, a social media network. They all sit in data centers with racks of servers. It's the crypto equivalent of one of those.
Interesting stuff.
And then there's all sorts of other add-ons so there's 3 or 4 different spaces within the basement. So you've got lots of other uses that are coming out, which again are playing on this decentralized network. So you've got decentralized file storage, which is a big one, which is another one I'm looking at, which will be like phase 2. So phase 1 will be mining, phase 2 will be maybe decentralized file storage. which is where files are not just stored in one place. It's the same theory. Files sit on the blockchain, and computer power is used to host files as opposed to one data center.
And when we talked about this on the podcast, I was like, well, why does anyone want to use that? And it reduces the cost massively, and it's much more secure because that, at the moment, if I've got something in a Google Doc, it's in the form of a Google Doc on Google Drive, hosted by Google. So if Google gets hacked, which is probably sat on the AWS servers somewhere, so if that gets hacked, the whole piece of content. By the way, I write some amazing content. So if a hacker got it, I mean, they could change the flipping world if they were inclined to. I'm joking, they couldn't. But in the instance of Web3 and these decentralized data centers, where it breaks that content up, so it wouldn't be a single document until I called for it to be brought back to me as a single document. It's split up into thousands of pieces. So that one document or the files that I've got are spread across multiple nodes in multi pieces. It's so flipping clever, this stuff, and it only comes back together when I request it to be brought back together as a document or as a thing. So it's safer. Yeah. Well, there's this the trend at the moment. We're in a trend for decentralization, isn't it? Everyone wants something to be decentralized. People are working towards decentralization of social media, decentralization of this. We live in a world where everything has been centralized into data silos. So there's a move to go away from that and to have stuff sit on chain or on the blockchain somewhere that's on a decentralized network. Or that's why DeFi has gained so much traction, because now stuff works on a decentralized ledger, which makes it removes a lot of the friction and a lot of the bureaucracy that's in place with big banks. Yeah, 100%. Right, let's have a jingle reset, and then we will come back with some more myths after the fancy jingle lady does her fancy jingle lady stuff, and we'll come to you guys in the room for some conversation, some bits. I've seen that Ame's in the. I'm not sure if she can talk or not at the moment because she's travelling around the Netherlands by the sounds of it. But we'll come back after this because there's some interesting points about more demystifications that we can come to on Web3.
You are listening to Breakfast with Winners. Exclusive content direct from the Winners Club. If you are enjoying the conversation, click on the green Monopoly house at the top of the screen right now and join the thousands of winners already in our community. For even more actionable content and powerful lessons, download the free companion app now. Just search for the Winners Club in the App Store or Google Play. For more information about the Winners Club and how to become part of our growing community, head to thewinnersclub.club. Now, back to the show.
Back to the show indeed. Good morning, gang. How are you? Hope you're all doing good. Welcome to Breakfast with Winners. If you're just tuning in, if you have been here regularly, you know what this room's all about. We are distilling, demystifying, and looking into the world of Web3. And basically, we have a conversation every single week around real world, real business use cases for what Web3 is doing, because the weird and wonderful world of Web3 and crypto and NFTs and DAOs and all that stuff, it can be a little bit complex, it can be a little bit convoluted, it can be a little bit confusing if you're running a standard business in sort of the Web2 world. And our mission and our vision is to try and help you guys as entrepreneurs, because the Winners Club is actually the biggest group of entrepreneurs on social audio in Europe. That's not our words, that's the words of Clubhouse directly themselves. And they're so thankful for our input into their platform. They sent us a hat and some socks, which was, we were very respectful of, sort of. So yeah, we wanted to, rather than just talk about crypto in the way that crypto gets talked about around the rest of the Web3 world, we wanted to make it real and actionable and tangible, which is why we talk about Paul's basement and the wonderful world of Paul's basement. Ame, are you there? Are you travelling? I think you said you're in Netherlands doing stuff. Is she there? No, she's not. She said she was running around doing some bits. Oh, here you go. Karl Balgrov is saying in the chat, here's a classic myth. NFTs are not actually stored on the blockchain. NFTs are stored on IPFS and are susceptible to link rot. Nice. How about we start with debunking the myth that Web3 is the evolution of just Web2? Oh, Jarl has got some opinions, isn't he? I've never seen him in the room before. I'll have to have a look at him. He's got a scary Viking face. I don't know if that encourages me or puts me off further from delving more into the conversation with him. But we'll do a bit of digging on Joel, and maybe come back to that point later on. You mentioned proof of stake and proof of work. There's been a few people who've messaged stuff going, what? Huh? What? What does that mean in a simple world to understand, Captain Crypto?
Well, proof of work is mining. You know,
just being paid for doing the thing that you said.
Yeah,
that you
basically, the crypto mining machine is going, I've done this work, I've done the calculation, have a look at this, putting its results out there. The other nodes are verifying it and saying, yes, it did do the work. Yes, you're correct. Get paid for it. That's like a really loose description of what's going on. So that's proof of work. Who's that? It wasn't me or you. Always weird when somebody coughs or clears their throat in your ear, isn't it? And it's not you. So that's
Mr. Telecom. Of course it is. Bloody Mr. Telecom. As soon as he comes up, he causes trouble, that geezer. But lucky we love him.
So that's proof of work. Where did I get to with that?
Proof
so
of
basically,
proof that you did.
Yeah, so the mining machines all try to work to solve the puzzle. The first one solves the puzzle. The other ones verify that it's happened, and away they go. Yep. Proof of stake is where if you own a considerable amount of cryptocurrency, you can stake your coins within that protocol or within that blockchain. So if you own Ethereum, you can stake Ethereum, which basically means you're depositing your Ethereum and you're locking it into an account somewhere or locking it with them. And then that's used to validate new blocks in the transaction. And for doing that, the stakeholders will get rewards. So the stakers, if you stake an amount of assets, you'll get rewarded, or you'll get paid interest effectively for doing that. Yeah. But here's the thing: if you've got, and this is where particularly this mining operation, part of the plan is to then stake assets that are generated. So even with because it's a considerable size of mining operation, you'll be generating significant amounts monthly of crypto assets. So the plan is to then stake a percentage of those assets in proof of stake to get paid, again, be paid an interest back on the assets that are done there. So yeah, one of them is you're creating a stake pool of crypto assets to verify the transaction. And the other one is proof of work. Effectively, it's how, these blockchains are coded. They're not just, someone's created them and coded them. So it's just a way in which the protocols are coded and changed. But proof of stake Ethereum have been talking about proof of stake for 5 years or something ridiculous, and it just keeps getting delayed. So it's more complicated than people make out. And whilst there's this grand ideation, what's the idealization?
I've got
idealization.
I've got no idea. Dyslexic. Find another word quick.
This great theory that it's low power and low impact on. Yeah. It's actually quite hard to make work, and it's less secure, which is part of the risk and part of the issues that are going on at the moment.
Interesting. I've just we've had some more questions in the chat, and I was just doing a little bit of digging, and it's so interesting. This energy narrative is just everywhere, isn't it? The energy narrative with mining is just being bammed about all over the place. Right, okay.
There is a global movement of people, and I've noticed this
ideation,
the more I read. Ideation, yeah, there we go.
Thanks.
Who's counted that out?
Janae. Okay. Janae in the chat. Ideation.
There is a global movement, and the more research you do, and it's a bit like anything, isn't it? There's a global movement to shut everything down that comes from big lobbyists and big tech and whatever industry it is. But there is a constant narrative and global movement in terms of press articles and stuff that goes out there, which is trying to crush and shut down the world of crypto. And that has to be coming from the banks. It has to be coming from big tech. Has to be, doesn't it? Where else is it going to be coming from?
Yeah, but that's where the lobbyists normally come from, isn't it?
So it's the press releases are coming from somewhere, and the studies are coming from somewhere. But when you actually look into them, a lot of them are nonsense.
Ame saying there's lots of geoeconomics going on. There certainly is. Right, we want to take the opportunity, or give you guys the opportunity within this room to ask any questions, because I've got a tiny bit of knowledge. Paul's got a bit more knowledge than me, but we've got some people in this room, in the community, who've got lots and lots of knowledge around these subjects. So if you've got a question around a myth that you would like busted within the Web3 world, then we will do our best this morning to answer it for you and to make sure you get mega value from it. I'll tell you what, one of the things that's come up in the chat is PI Network. So William asked, what are your thoughts on PI Network? Fuzzy, who's a Gary Club giraffe, said it feels like a waste of time. It looks like the first digital currency you can mine on your phone. Start mining currency today with our free Energy Light mobile app. So there's basically mining crypto is hard, investing in crypto is risky. Too many of us are left out of the cryptocurrency revolution. PI makes crypto mining easy. Breakthrough tech allows you to mine PI on your phone without draining your battery. So you can mine it on your phone. Decentralized, mobile first, and user and planet friendly. Okay, sure. Download the mobile app today. Has anyone who's already on the stage looked at PI Network? Had a look at it at all? Ame has. What is PI Network first and foremost? What's your take on it? Good morning, by the way. Ame, you there? You flashed. Can you speak? Speak now or forever hold your peace. No.
Can someone else speak to check we can hear people?
Yep.
There we go.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Jesus,
I think she's in transit.
Why is she in the back of a transit van?
No, she mentioned she's in transit, so she'll jump on when she can.
You can't talk about basements and transit vans in the same episode. You'll end up being the subject of a crime podcast. God damn it.
But here's the thing with mining, isn't it? It is, like I discovered, it is, which is why I think it's quite unique to have an NFT that returns from a mining pool, because the barrier to entry is removed from being 20 grand to buy a decent mining machine that will get you reasonable returns, to 350 quid.
Yeah.
So it's a big problem solving.
Yeah, 100%.
Like I can't see this, like you say, PI Network, I can't see how efficient mining from a mobile phone would be. Plus your mobile phone would be kill the battery, wouldn't it? Which seems to me as being
apparently not.
First.
Apparently not, according to them.
Maybe not.
Obviously, I would say that. They got a white paper. I'm going to read this. Everyone, they love a flipping white paper, people, don't they? Look at this. Do I need to know all this? Do I need to know? Here you go, the PI stack. This is just a world. If you'd have told me 6 months ago that I'd find this is what I'd be spending my spare time doing, that I'd now have a newfound, like Hayley's never been more excited because we've moved. We've got flat pack furniture all over the gaff. She's like, can you put that together? I'm like, yeah, of course I can. Because it means I get to shut the door, lock the kids out, and listen to a podcast. She's like, how long? But everything takes me the same amount of time. How long is it going to take you to build that desk? Oh, about an hour and a half, I reckon. I could knock this out in 90 minutes. It's the slowest building of a desk you've ever seen in your life.
Depends on which podcast series you're listening to and how long the episodes are.
Yeah, exactly. I'll tell you what, I've got to give him a shout out. The Michael Stelzner social media
crypto business podcast.
Yeah, it's
a good
really
one.
good.
Yes,
It's
one.
very good. I really like it.
Don't listen to that though, listen to ours.
Yeah, all of others are redundant. Something else. We should really put a link in the show notes. We actually talk in more depth about mining in today's episode, to be fair. So yeah, go and check it out if you are interested to find out more information. Yar's been off doing some work. To prove my claim that Web3 is not just an evolution of Web2, I found these articles from before the crypto era. Money in CNN. There you go. Web3, now semantic web, is the evolution of Web2. Web3 is different from Web2. There you go. Thanks, Jarl. Appreciate it. Right, Amy, are you there? No, she's still in transit. Okay, cool. Right, guys, if you've got any questions around the subjects we've been covering off this morning, give us a flash to the mic. Feel free to come up and ask a question. Hashtag Handsome Toby. Here he is. He's maybe taken over the role of Handsome Marvin, which Marvin will be delighted about, because I used to put all of my hashtag bromance focus on Marvin, and he didn't like it, frankly, but the more he didn't like it, the more it made me want to do it, because I thought it was hilarious. But Toby's now going to be my muse. Go on then, Tobes. What's your question, my man?
I was on the step machine when you said it earlier, and it was a good job I was, because I was going redder and redder and redder. Gave me an excuse to do that. Hopefully it's just a simple one. Mining. Can you simply plug the mine machine into the PC, connect your wallet, and jobs are good? Is that literally as easy as it is?
They're independent from a computer, so they are the computer effectively. So they'll sit on their own. Yes, you have to plug them into the internet. Yes, you have to plug them into obviously electricity, and then there's an element of management to it. So there's mining, and then there's like a trading operation in the background to ensure that you get the maximum returns for your buck, basically. So there's a bit of strategy involved, like a mining machine really shouldn't be just sitting on the same blockchain forever and a day just mining one coin. You should probably have a mixture of different machines working across different blockchains and then be trading out into different currencies to hedge your bets, etc., etc. So there's a trading element to it to make it uber successful that will go on in the background. But yeah, in theory, you could plug the machine in and away it goes, and it would generate some returns for you, some coin, not the maximum amount of returns, because like I say, to get that extra, the icing on the cake would come from the trading activity behind the scenes to make that like super powerful.
And no particular wallet, just your wallet.
Yeah, you'll just tell it where to send a digital wallet, where to send the returns. Probably you'd want to split that across a few wallets for security purposes, so that the whole pack of cards doesn't come tumbling down if you get hacked. But yeah, you just any digital wallet really with any wallet provider.
Okay, thanks.
He's in.
Where the scale of growth comes from is having, and this is why I'm going for so many machines, it's having lots of power. So because you can do what's called solo mining, where you can bank all of those mines together to act as one. So now you become super powerful, as opposed to just one machine sitting in an office somewhere plugged in.
Would you get like preferential sort of rate? So for example, if you've got one computer doing a bit of stuff on the Ethereum network, you get paid X amount of ETH. But if you've got 200 together, could you go to the market and say, our network will work on this?
No, it doesn't really work like that,
No.
but you can solve problems quicker.
Right.
So you can in theory, your returns would be exponentially more than one machine sitting on the floor.
Yeah,
somewhere.
yeah, of course. Makes sense.
Which is why you see huge, if you search for crypto mines, you'll probably see Bitcoin mines, and they're huge. Like there's some in Eastern Europe,
Yeah,
that are like aircraft
massive.
hangars full of Bitcoin
Yeah.
mining machines. And some of those are publicly traded companies, but they just mine Bitcoin. But that's why they have so much power, because they can solve the mathematics quicker, and therefore earn Bitcoin a lot quicker.
But the easiest way to get into mining is to go to paulsbasement.com. That's paulsbasement.com. You should get that URL, definitely. Right. Also, guys, we should caveat this conversation by saying none of this is financial advice. Please go and do your own due diligence. Speak to an independent financial advisor, even though that said independent financial advisor actually gets paid a commission on anything that they flog you. So how independent is that advice? But that's a subject for another conversation. And also just be mindful whenever we put the word crypto in the title, we do tend to get lots of spammers in the chat. We haven't got any in today. There's lots of just useful conversation happening in there. So you can click down the bottom left-hand side. If you'd like to join in the text version of this conversation as well, feel free to do so. If you want more information about any of the subjects we're covering, you can click the link in the show notes. You can bounce out to our podcast and all that kind of good stuff as well. Right, lovely Sharon has got a question around Web3. Morning, Sharon.
Good morning.
Hi, Sharon. Makes my flipping day.
Good morning, everybody. So my question, I remember a while back, Mimi said that she had kind of lost some crypto or something, where she'd gone to transfer it from one place to another, and it seemed to have got lost. And it was making me think and reflect about the whole kind of security and safety around all of it, because as human beings, when things go wrong, we want somebody to talk to, we want that security. Me personally, whenever I'm making an online purchase or signing up with an online company, I always look to see if they have a customer service department, because if I need to speak to a human rather than just have a live chat, it makes me feel more secure. So what do you feel about the kind of the whole security and the safety around crypto as it is? Because what's to stop somebody, a bit like people can hack into your Instagram account, what's to stop people from doing that, and how safe are we currently?
Right. I'm going to go to town on you, Sharon.
I've not been listening to your podcast.
No, right. So
Get out.
So my mother and father-in-law
I have
only.
listened to one, by the way.
My mother and father-in-law only about 6 weeks ago, and I think I shared this story in this room, were on their way to a nice night at a hotel that their kids paid for as a anniversary present or something like that. And I think they was going down to Cambridge for the weekend. And on their way down there, they got a text message from what they thought was their son.
Joe told me about this.
They then paid rent for their son because they said that he was in trouble and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, to cut a long story short, they paid about £7,000 worth of invoices or bills quickly for what they believed was their son, who told them that they couldn't he couldn't speak on the phone. Now, that story, in simplistic terms, you're all going to sit there and go, what bloody idiots would do that, right? Because I done that. But actually, when you see how it was set up and it was actually quite an elegant scam.
Yeah, it was very clever.
Very well put together. So we are scammed every day in our daily lives. And our what we feel is secure is not necessarily that secure. How many times do you have little transactions go through your bank accounts? I must be getting, literally I must get a new debit card every 2-3 weeks because something's gone on through it. Or Apple Pay. Apple Pay, everyone believes Apple Pay is great. Most security violations that are going on in banking network at the moment are coming via Apple Pay. I read a statistic the other day it was shocking the amount of people that are abusing Apple Pay. Because it's easy, isn't it? It's contactless. And that's why contactless limits were so low. So there's this whole narrative that traditional banking is uber secure and very secure. Now, the caveat to that is that when you do have a scam of some sort, if it's in a certain way and it's done on a credit card or it's with your bank, they say that you can get the money back. But trust me, my mother and father-in-law haven't got a penny back of their £7,000. So as of yet.
Are they not?
No, because they physically went onto their bank and they done a banking transfer to
Yeah.
somebody's account number and sort code and sent the money to them.
Yeah.
So that's different to somebody getting hold of your card details and doing a fraudulent transaction. So chances are if you have a fraudulent transaction with Visa, you'll get the money reimbursed back to you. Credit cards are insured, aren't they? So you get it back via, if it's on a credit card anyway. So I tend to use credit cards, firstly because I'm building up air miles, but secondly, every transaction I make online now is via a credit card because I know, particularly American Express, they're really good. American Express are instant. You ring them up and say there's been a fraudulent transaction, no worries sir, we'll give you the money back. It's that quick because it's happened to me on a regular basis. So there's fraud that goes on in the real financial world, yet we have like you touched on, a customer service element. Now with crypto, I think it depends where your comfort level is and how much of how much you want to interact with Web3. Now, I'll give you some examples. If you just want to invest in crypto and you want to buy some crypto assets and you want to hold them on the assumption that they're going to go up in value and you want them to be of no more use than that, just simply I want to invest in some Ethereum or some Bitcoin or one of the big currencies and I want to speculate. You're doing it on a purely speculative basis. If you want to do that, then there are exchanges or companies, almost like financial institutions, to be honest, the size of them, that exist out there that allow you to do that very easily. They allow you to buy crypto with a debit card and they will store it in their on their system or platform for you. So there are companies like Crypto.com, Coinbase, I think eToro might be one of them as well. You can use eToro. There's loads of them out there. Binance. The issue that Mimi described last time out was Binance because Binance isn't licensed to operate in the UK. So anybody that had previously purchased assets with Binance had an amount of time, and I didn't have any, so I don't know the exact ins and outs, but they had an amount of time to move those out of their wallets or out of the Binance ecosystem somewhere else into a private wallet, and somewhere in doing that Mimi lost access to it. So that I believe was Mimi's scenario. But you could simply just use Crypto.com or Coinbase. I use Coinbase personally. Again, I'm not affiliated to Coinbase in any way. It's just relatively easy. Please sponsor me, Coinbase, if you're listening. But it makes it easy to purchase crypto with a debit card, and then it just sits like it would a bank account, like it would a stock trading account or any of those, like a Hargreaves Lansdown, like your ISA. It just sits in an account and you can see it and it will go up and down in value, and you can decide to off-road or off-ramp that, which is turning cryptocurrency back into normal fiat currency and taking it out and sending it to a bank account. So those companies make that work. Right. So if you're not of the narrative that all things in crypto have to be decentralized, then that's a perfect little ecosystem for you to operate in. And you do have a customer service department. You do have somebody that you can call up. You do have they're built and structured a bit like banks, to be honest with you. So you do have people that you can call up and still operate in the crypto space and buy some crypto, yet have that comfort like you would with being able to call up Visa or MasterCard. So that still operates. If you want to be truly decentralized and take the keys to the kingdom yourself and be in control of everything that you do, then you can move those assets from Coinbase or crypto.com or wherever you purchase them to into a private wallet where the assets then become yours. You have custody of those digital assets. They're in your wallet. At that point in time, you are 100% responsible for your own destiny. Effectively, it's like you locking it up in a safe and you holding the key. And if you're responsible for that key, if you lose your key, then you lose access to everything that's there. And that key is a 12-word seed phrase in most cases. Now, a lot of the hacks are coming, and the way that I got hacked, because there's an episode on the podcast about being hacked, because we was hacked.
Not that you'd know.
And we lost
Sharon.
about 500 quid's worth of Ethereum. Well, we actually only lost about 150 quid, and then I personally sent the other 300 quid to a locked wallet that I didn't have the seed phrase for. So it's sitting in there. It's technically ours, but we can't access it. So we got scammed because we interacted with a website that wasn't a legitimate actor. It was a fake website set up by somebody else to look and mimic like another website. And I put my seed phrase thinking that I was interacting with with a correct website. I authorized my wallet to connect to that website, because that's how Web3 world works. For instance, the crypto mining activity that I was talking about, and I don't know all of the logistics in this, but roughly how it will work is, in order to be able to log in and see what the returns would be for the mining pool, that would be in a members area. Now, in order to prove you're a member, you'll have to hold an NFT. In order to prove that membership, you'll have to hold that NFT in a private wallet, and then that wallet will connect to the website that we build. So you would have to have a private wallet where you have custody of your assets and you'll authorize our website to connect with your wallet. That is what I done when I got hacked, but the website I believed I was being authorizing to access my wallet wasn't a legitimate website. The URL was incorrect. So there just becomes, if you're going to hold all of your assets, it's a bit like if you was to go to the cash machine and draw out £1 million and stick it under your mattress. Trust me, you're going to install CCTV on your house. You're going to put an alarm on your house. You're going to make sure you've got 3 or 4 locks on the front door and the back door. You're going to put a CCTV facing out into the road, probably, to make sure you can see what's going on. You're going to ensure that your alarm is connected directly to the police, so that when somebody breaks your alarm, the police are going to be called. You're going to be taking...
You're basically going to make it Fort Knox.
Exactly, yeah.
Fort Knox, like the Federal Reserve Bank. You're going to make your entire home like the Federal Reserve Bank.
Yeah, so you're going to make all of the security steps to ensure you're protected. And you just have to have that mindset when you're acting in this crypto world. If you're going to take custody of your assets, yes, there is no bank to go back to. Yes, there is no Visa to go back to and say, please, sir, I've been hacked. Nobody cares. Well, people do care, but nobody can do anything about it. But that's what we all want, right? We're all calling for this decentralization and this ability to take back control and be in charge of our own destiny. So you've actually got to step up and be in control of your own destiny, and not be able to fall back and say, oh, please, Mr. Visa, somebody stole my money. You've got to be in control of it, right? So but that's not for everybody. Not everybody listening in this room wants to even be in that world of, there's so much going on in your own personal life. You might not want to have to do all of those things to protect your assets. For some people are going to embrace that and going to get off on doing that. Are going to make sure they've got the right security features installed on their PC or their Mac at home, and acting from VPNs and all that type of stuff. People get off on that, and it's their hobby. Others just want to dabble a little bit in cryptocurrency, put some money into an account and watch it go up and down in value. So there are solutions out there for all of us to do whatever we want. But the more you want to go into the layers of Web3 and interact with different memberships, or if you want to start having NFT ownership and how they interact, it might be that you only, and this is one route that I know a few people that do this. They have their holdings, their crypto holdings held with custodial wallets like Coinbase or crypto.com, like I've said, and they'll hold most of their crypto holdings with those guys, and then they'll transfer just enough Ethereum or currency into a private wallet to cover what's called gas fees to do transactions with, and then they'll just hold their NFTs in a wallet. So there's no actual currency. Yes, the NFTs have value, and you still have to take the security because they're NFTs, but they don't hold large volumes of cryptocurrencies sitting in wallets. They'll just use NFTs, and you might have a different wallet. I know some people that do this as well. They'll have a different wallet for different NFT collections. So they'll have one wallet that has a specific NFT that they'll just authorize that wallet to connect to that website. And then they'll have a different wallet that has a different NFT. They'll use that wallet to connect to a different website. So they're just spreading the risk and hedging their security. So I hope that gives you probably a lot more of an answer than you expected. But
Yeah,
Or
no,
wanted.
it was very, very comprehensive, Paul.
If
But
I can I just add something to that as well, because Paul's kind of said a lot of really amazing things. There's
Sure.
one thing that I want to specifically unpack that he just spoke about. And good morning. Yes, I'm actually in transit and also bouncing around between Dev Connect and ETH Amsterdam, which is basically the Ethereum organization. It's all week, April 18th to April 25th, and we are a bunch of crazy devs, L2 solutions, all that good fun stuff when you talk about the technology that's being built around Ethereum blockchain. So, staking, lending, farming, all those fancy things, that's what we're doing here in Amsterdam all week. So what I would say around security and connecting your wallets and allowing them to have access, there's a wallet that you could test out to see what that feels like. And Paul's really valid by saying you want to train your brain to do this, because we've gotten so caught up in society being quick, fast, and the exploit that he said via a transaction on a check for £7,000, that's called social engineering. That's social hacking. Okay, that is shockingly very, very common, and it happens a lot because it is Sharon who's asking the question, right?
correct, yes.
It's Sharon. Okay, so Sharon, for example, anyone could call up. You could have someone you trust. Like, trust is such a unique thing, right? Because someone may not like the way I sound in a tonal way, right? But they may think, oh yeah, she doesn't sound like someone I could trust. Well, let's be very careful with that, and I'll tell you why. Because social engineering, and I have a friend that's been in ethical hacking for decades. He hacked into NASA when he was 19 years old, and I went to school with him. So just put this into perspective, okay? Not everyone that sounds friendly is friendly. Be aware of that, because there's a lot of that goes on in this space. There's a lot of flowery conversation and flowery way of speaking, but I'll be really direct. That's how social engineering starts, because people know that psychologically they like hearing from people whose voices are pleasant. So they tap into the emotional component. And that's where, unfortunately, more women get caught in that, but men too. But men get caught in it differently. And I've gone to hacking conferences to see this live, and I'm not shocked, because I worked on help desk before. I'm not shocked. But cybersecurity and cyber hygiene are no joke, especially right now with the political, the geopolitical, and the geoeconomical situation going on. Because you must understand where this talent is coming from. This talent that's so amazing, because I've worked with them and I've managed them, are coming from Ukraine, Russia, Belarus, Macedonia, Montenegro, Kazakhstan. Okay, so you understand some of the most top programmers, mathematicians, computer scientists are coming from areas where they're literally brilliant. So now you're going up against that. It's not to scare you, it's to help you learn how to protect in the world that we're going into, so that you could minimize your risk. And that's why what Paul is saying is super, super powerful, because of the fact to minimize risk, you have to understand the risk and learn the risk. Same thing back in the day when we did credit card charges. They didn't always used to credit you so easily. This has only been recently as they've fine-tuned their fraud prevention. So that's why, I'm a platinum holder for 3 decades. Amex too has now stopped, Paul, just to give you a heads up. Amex now has stopped doing so easily, crediting back people for fraud, because they're also seeing that it's becoming something that's happening too much, and not at the large level, at the small level. And the gentleman in the back that was talking about dusting, we could talk about that another time, but that's a little, in the fiat world, I would say dusting is something like when people give you back, and I think, Paul, you totally get this, like when you go and buy something and it's 20 quid or 10 quid, and you're like, shit, I lost it on the train. Call up Amex. Hey, yeah, no problem. We'll give you the 10 quid back. That 10 quid that 10 quid adds up if you do that 50 times in a year. And that's what you pay membership fees for as well. So they consider it a bit of a wash. But this is all stuff we learned by using the credit card system. Now, if you want to understand how to use this cybersecurity system and the cyber system and the Web3 system, you really have to get a wallet like Argent that has the attachment, for example, that the Winners Club will probably, that Paul will do when he does his mining. That type of connection that Argent wallet has, ARGENT. Argent wallet is a smart contract wallet. That wallet has a type of connection that will be the type of connection that the mining practice of the NFT mining, NFT and DeFi element that Paul wants to do will have a connection like that in the smart contract. But the one thing that I would recommend, and I love Paul's a bit, but he will also say the same thing, when you're done with that transaction, disconnect the permission to the wallet, because that is how wallet hacks happen as well. That's an example of one. If you do not disconnect it, there is the possibility of an exploit right there because of the person's inability to know to disconnect the wallet, which is why I'm super grateful that you're talking about this, because I was discussing this yesterday offline at an event with a multi-chain ETH to the drink, right? Multi-chain like Ethereum staking. And the thing is that when you go multi-chain, which is what we're going to, multi-chain basically means Binance, Avalanche, Ethereum, a Polygon, you name it. That's what's called multi-chain, because all of these are blockchains. But Ethereum staking is going to move to cross-chain. And it's going to get more crazier, which is why I'm super, super adamant about getting more of this information across, which is why Wednesday mornings I do get in here when I can, as early as I can, but sometimes I come in a little late. So thank you for the patience. But seriously, what Paul's been saying so far, I've been listening to the whole thing. He's absolutely spot on. The podcast that they're doing is brilliant. I've started to listen to it. I'm still going to do my podcast because there are elements that I could go deeper into. But the main thing right now is get yourself practice. Practice. So get 100 quid, get the Argent wallet, and start playing. Being really transparent. Start playing. That means put enough that you're okay with losing. Like if you go to gamble, if you go to a casino, you spend money, no problem. If you go out for dinner, you spend 200 quid, whatever, with your friends, having some drinks and some dinner. Maybe one of those days you put that money aside and start testing. Because that's how I was taught by my teachers, which happen to be from Belarus and Sweden. So I'm just being really super transparent. That's how you learn. For women as well, we got to start looking at things more from a perspective that if we just hear someone that we're comfortable with, doesn't mean you could trust them. Trust no one, verify. Trust no one, not even me, not even Paul, verify. And the way you verify is by having conversations, coming to the Winners Club, having these dialogues. This morning's conversation has been spot on. And if we have more of these every Wednesday morning, Paul's already knocked out all of the scammers. He's blocked them all. And all of their cronies, he's blocked them all. So that's the brilliance. He's got a no tolerance, zero tolerance policy for that, which I respect and admire, because that's how you have to be in this space. And you also have to recognize that anyone that's not telling you the truth, they won't be able to explain it. There's also a psychological hack that happens when people want you to believe they know a lot of information. They're going to say things in an order that's not the correct order in the way of someone from, like, for example, for me that was trained in it. And that's how I immediately know if someone's not 100% active or state, because of how they talk about it. And that's a psychological hack as well to prove you're an expert in something. And I'm a change manager. That's what I do for Fortune 100 companies, which is why I'm so keen to seeing it. And I'm so sensitized to hearing it, because I hear it in Fortune 100 companies when I try to assess the skills of an executive that I need to fire. You see what I'm saying? That's why I'm so sharp with that. And it's important to be that sharp. So, but women have this sharpness in them. It's their sixth sense. It's their intuition. But they also have to recognize that softness that they may need, or they may hear, that they may perceive as safe or trusting. Be careful. Be careful. Because that's how I've been scammed in the past.
Can I just say, it's great everything that you said, Amy, and also Paul. I think that the one thing that I would say for me personally, as somebody who is learning about all of this, is that we grow up with the current banking system. So, and yes, obviously scamming happens anyway. But I think there's still, because it's so new, there's a huge naivety for the common man around the whole crypto thing. And so therefore, for me, it feels that it would be so much easier to be vulnerable to that. But I appreciate that scams are getting more sophisticated, whether it's in crypto or wherever. So,
but that's why there's a halfway house, I think, Sharon. Like, for instance, and I'm not saying you should or you shouldn't, and this is not us pumping anything at all, because it's not this type of room, but being involved in communities and doing stuff as a community, that's, I think, where there can be an element of safety. So, for instance, us as a Winners Club, everybody knows, it's common knowledge, we're about to, soon, as in extremely soon, about to launch our own creator coin, our own cryptocurrency. And I've spoke about launching an NFT for the mining operation. There's two examples of how you could practice, of how you could get involved and gain confidence and do it with a community. And the learning, the education that comes with that is all there. And if you go reference back to SIPs is a good example of this. So self-invested personal pensions. Okay. So SIPs, that's an element of self-management. So it exists in the normal banking industry and the normal banking sector. And a SIP is not for everybody. Not everybody who has a pension fund is capable of managing their own pension fund and self-investing their pension into assets, or being able to pick what assets they invest their pension into. To some people, that's like mind-blowing. It's like, no, just let the investment manager decide where we're going to put my pension, because I could always phone up the investment manager and moan at them and shout at them. Well, when you have a SIP, you take back control of that. You do it all yourself. You are responsible for your own destiny. You can invest that in within reason, because there's certain restrictions in whatever you want to do. So this self-managed route exists in the normal financial world. It's just we've been conditioned to have this element of comfort with by being able to go to one of the big institutions because we believe we trust them. And it's amazing how much, just because there's a big brand attached to a bank, people attach trust to that and assume that they're a trustworthy source, because it says HSBC or Barclays, it must be a trustworthy source of information, or it must be a really secure investment. So there's a whole psychological safety issue built into that. But like Amy said, just play, just buy a little bit, just keep it with, firstly, like the first step for anyone, I think, with cryptocurrency is just to invest a little bit of money and watch it go up and down. The damn stuff is so volatile, for reasons that if you go into the technical reasons as to why it's volatile, you'll understand it. It's I know this is a backwards on my statement, it's not as volatile as people make out to be. It does move in either direction, but there's reasons why it moves. And if you but the first step is to just own some and keep it in a custodial wallet, like a Coinbase or something like that, and just have 100 quid's worth of a currency and check it every day to see how much it goes up and down, and just get used to that volatility. Like, that's step number one, I think. And then just start doing it in small doses, bit by bit, and be part of a community, and keep an eye out for where the hacks are coming from and stuff like that. So
thanks, Paul. It sounds like I'm doing all the right things, and I've done that. I've put £200 into Coinbase and watching it bounce up and down. So there you go.
Just get comfortable. Yeah, just get comfortable. I've done it with stocks and shares once. When I first got involved in stocks and shares, I thought I was like the best picker of stocks in the world. Little do you realise, until you start investing your own money and the sweat comes on, and maybe I'm not as good as I thought I would be.
This is the thing, isn't it? And I remember, if you bring it back to the real world, I had done lots of like property education. I was like, I'm going to build a property portfolio. Everyone can kind of like understand that. I remember the first time I bought a second property, and I absolutely, hopefully there's not many kids, and I'll edit myself, I pooed my pants. Absolutely. The day, so I borrowed 12k to put down, and then 38,000 as a second mortgage. So 50 grand all in for this property. And it felt like a fortune. And I'd done this training and education. I knew the ROI, and I knew I was buying it at like 27% below market value. All the stuff you get told that you should be doing. And I had the theory inside out. I knew it back to front. And I was like super confident, I'm going to build a portfolio of 17 million houses in 5 days. And but that first night of going to sleep with that second mortgage, you're going, oh my God, I've now got another property that I'm going to have to refurb. I'm going to have to refinance it. I'm going to have to get a tenant for it. It was bloody terrifying. But it was, when you look at it, it was such a small step into that world. But you've got to take the step. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. And I think a lot of people are hearing the words of crypto and Web3 and they want to, oh, why don't I get in when I could have bought an ape, or why didn't I get in with a mutant monk, or why didn't I get in with a V friend or whatever? Because you didn't, right? You are where you are. You are exactly where you are supposed to be. But if you do what you've always done, you will get what you've always got. You have got to do something different if you want different outcomes. And this is not getting all like preachy and coaching on you, but if you want to get into the world of Web3, if you want to get into the world of crypto, the first point of call is to go to a Coinbase or somewhere like that and stick 100 quid onto it. That's it. Then you're in the game. Then you're in that world.
Big in the game.
Big in the game. And don't forget, there's such a small percentage of people. I think another narrative that's very falsely being pushed around at the moment is the fact that everyone's in a rush. Like we are, even having this conversation, this is not going mainstream for another 10 years. It's not going mainstream for another 10 years. And it is like those of us who are even looking at it now, who are even dabbling at it now, who are even putting a few hundred quid into something now, you are categorically an early adopter. So do not put yourself out of your comfort zone to take some action, but don't put yourself at risk. Get in, have a play with it. But, you know, and that applies to all kinds of things.
We've had a compliment in the chat back channel, by the way. This room is bullshit, apparently. So thank you for your compliment.
Wow.
So,
Supreme Huddle, I think you might have to leave the room.
Well, if it's so much bullshit, why are you here listening? There's other rooms in the hallway. Go somewhere else.
We've clearly triggered people. We've clearly triggered because something that Paul said is really valid. The app also, it's not to sound like the coach and stuff, but you do start to see where the stuff starts to come up when people feel like they're left behind, or because they're hearing something from someone else that's different. And they trust that other person. So what they're hearing here is facts and reality, and they're spicy because they're trusting another community. And Paul, you said something about going to communities. You have also been scammed in a community, so be careful. And it's not to put the fear, doom, and gloom. It's more about, look, take responsibility. As Paul said, get about 100, like Michelle said, 200 quid, put it in Coinbase, play around with it. And just know that also Coinbase is somewhat centralized. So if you're going to start playing in Coinbase, I wouldn't do that with large amounts of money. I would do that with just enough to play and learn and understand, and then graduate from that. Because the whole ethos is decentralized Web3. It's about sovereignty over your own money. If you go back to Coinbase, you're literally going back into the centralized platforms. It doesn't make it right or wrong. It just, you have to understand what you want from this space. Like, do you want sovereignty? Do you want community? Do you want to gain? Do you want to grow with it? And I think that's where the first step comes, identifying, are you just in it because everyone's FOMOing in and YOLOing in? No, you got to really recognize why you're coming in. Are you coming in because you have an active in real life business that may become obsolete by the digitization of this blockchain system? Yeah, then I would come in now. Absolutely, because whereas Paul's saying 10 years, I'm in the tech, I'm saying 5. So I would probably say be really prepared that there's disruptions already going on, and there's a lot of stuff that the mainstream does not even see or know yet because it hasn't been dropped into those areas.
Amy, one thing I would say is the majority of people that want to enter this space right now, their only goal is, can I make some profit? Right?
Yeah,
that's it.
Show me the money.
That's it. Just show me the money. It's very, it's very. Cause they're not interested in the technicalities and the acronyms and all the bits and pieces. Then you get people like Paul and yourself who say, actually, you know what? Actually, we can be a sort of trailblazer in this, mining or understanding NFTs. But the majority, 90%. If you look at the chat, there's someone in the chat just said, just tell me some basics. What do I do to put X in, and then next week I'll get XY back? That's it. That's the level. And if you think about conventional investments, ISAs, how many people say to people, right, what did you do? You made loads of money. I do exactly what you did, then I can make loads of money. And we know it doesn't work like that. So, people come into this space thinking, listen to all these things. Bottom line is, where can I hear that person saying, if I just did that, next week I'll get double. Great, that's all I want to know. And it sits at that level. And we try and overcome.
You can hear that on the Understanding Crypto podcast, out now, and every Wednesday.
DM me and I'll give you some recommendations.
Exactly. So then we go into this, which is great. Then people might hear you, Paul, and Amy and other people. Actually, there's more to this. Or do I want to be part of a community? Do I want to understand, the thing, blah, blah, blah. So when you say, James, this is not going to be mainstream for 10 years, most people just shut off. Right? Oh, you know what? I'll do it later. And then they wonder, why didn't I do it earlier? Because we always wish we did it yesterday. Always. And so it comes back to the psychological thing, whether it's crypto, whether it's investments, whether it's launching a landing page, whether it's on the course, we always wish we did it a year ago. So you're
like
exactly
relationships too. It's like
exactly, yeah. So when James says you are where you are because of the decisions you've made and your base, your level of risk averseness, and in your head in terms of how much prepared you are to risk. And some people work from a place of, I will prepare to do what I can, but long as I don't jeopardise my security. Then that's going to affect your decisions.
Yeah, I think we have to be so careful, don't we? Because we have to caveat the podcasting with every episode, as we do when we start this room. You've got to be so careful. The want to help people. I'd love to tell you exactly what I think you should go and invest your money into,
Just say it.
No, I'm not going to, but for that reason. But that 200 quid that Sharon has invested in Coinbase, I'd love to be able to say to Sharon, go and do it on this, and this. Yeah, but you just can't do that in this world anymore. I
don't mind if you do that, Paul.
I knew Michelle was going to say that.
Yeah, and for a drink in the pub, if we was sitting at a bar with a drink and having a chat, of course I would tell you.
This happened this weekend, didn't it? You've educated half of
yeah.
I've
actually got an invite to a big dinner on Thursday. I'll tell you about that in a minute. So I ended up going to Easter with my family, and there's a strong connection in my family to the commodities trading world, which I've spoken about in here. I've almost say it every single morning. So my cousins and they are all from the commodity trading world and live work in that world, and some of them are earning, over £500,000 a year working in very senior roles in that world, but they have zero, and it really shocked me and surprised me. They have absolutely zero understanding of crypto. So everyone's talking about it. All these misconceptions and myths are coming out. Everyone's speaking about an NFT. They still believe that an NFT is a piece of art of an ape, a picture of an ape. That's what their definition of an NFT is.
That's literally what they said to you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's what their definition of an NFT is. So I ended up sitting around a table till 3 o'clock in the morning, giving them I wouldn't say a masterclass, but some basic education on crypto.
Crash course.
Yeah, a crash course on what is crypto. So I've ended up getting and I'm not going to say the bank, but it's a very big financial institution. I've ended up getting an invite to a dinner on Thursday, which is basically a dinner with some senior members of the bank to discuss how the bank is going to hold digital assets and how regulatory restraints are going to be put in place, specifically in their organisation or bank, to allow them to hold digital assets. And there's 25 people going to this dinner, so I've managed to get an invite to that to educate some people, which was quite entertaining.
Paul, isn't that the same people? Sorry, Paul, isn't that the same people in London that said they're banning crypto?
Well, yeah, not this particular. This is actually an American bank, but yeah, not this particular bank. But
That's what I was saying.
So this circles around to personal responsibility. So Paul will go to this dinner. He'll explain a load of things. These people who are on the surface, so-called sophisticated individuals around money and finances, etc., will take Paul's counsel based on their own frame of reference and make decisions. So they've got a different level of understanding, right? Good or bad. Then you've got the layman who says, right, okay, and like you say, if you're at a private dinner, Paul, you might say, actually, do you know what you want to do? Take that £500, put it there, because I did that, and hedging your bets, you'll probably be best off. Now, inherently, is where this all comes down to is people don't have responsibility for decisions. So when it goes well, great advice, all the rest of it. When it doesn't go well, are they brave enough to take responsibility? Think, do you know what, I've got to own this. Or, Paul, excuse me, you said do this. Well, I lost a load of money. What can you do about it? And that's where the conversation falls on the sides, whereby people say, understand enough and ask yourself, what's the level of risk I'm prepared to take? And then that's where personal responsibility sits, and people are not prepared to do that. That's why we want to be able to phone someone up and get some advice, which is understandable because that's a society we've brought in. We understand it, so you understand from that frame of reference. And then we're in this new world of crypto where all these acronyms and all these little words, but the fundamental aspect of taking responsibility and measuring your own risk averseness still applies.
Well, this is. Sorry, Beju. This is where I think you've touched on the main issue here, and this is, everyone's talks about regulation in cryptocurrency, and there's an argument as to whether or not it can be regulated and blah blah blah. We're not going down that rabbit hole yet. Maybe in a minute, but in the traditional finance world, you have two pools of investors. There's probably more, but you can split them into two. You have retail investors, which most people are what's classed as a retail investor. And regulation is there to protect the retail investors from losing their pants. That's basically what it's there for, right? So there's certain basic checks that are put in place. There's protection layers that are put in place and protection that prevents certain people from getting involved in certain investments because it's just not a right asset class or investment for them to make, okay? And then there are sophisticated, what's the definition of sophisticated investors or institutional investors, which are...
That definition is laughable, by the way.
Well, it is, but the argument that somebody with £1 million net worth, okay, should, and here's the argument of it, and I can understand the way of thinking here, should have sense and sensibility to make the right decisions, and what Beju said, take responsibility for their own investments.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's quite key here.
Yeah.
If you are what's classed as a sophisticated investor and you can make investments into risky investments or make an investment into a risky sector or industry or something that's new, you know when you're going into that what you're doing.
Yeah.
And the way that you act is very different to if you was investing your last £100 into something expecting your money to triple. We all know what it's like when we're desperate. When our back's against the wall, we act in a way that we probably wouldn't act if we had a net worth of over £1 million, which is why you'd be classed as a sophisticated. It's why people are manipulated. It's why people in the traditional finance space fall for get rich quick schemes. It's right, a lot of training that exists out there people go and pay for thinking that they're going to go and get rich quick because they're desperate and they're in a situation of needing to act desperate. So that's why regulation exists, to protect retail investors. The situation we find ourselves in now with crypto is at this moment in time, to some extent, that regulation isn't there. So we all have the ability to now act as a sophisticated investor. That doesn't mean we are mentally right to be a sophisticated investor, or we are in a position or that we should be in that position to act as it. But what it now means is that somebody working on the building site can invest in crypto, whereas previously they would be restricted from the investments they could make because of regulation. It would declassify them from being a sophisticated investor, so they shouldn't get access to that, or they couldn't get access to that type of investment, and they'd have to go through their bank and get access to an ISA that might give them 0.1% a year return on their money. So it comes down, I think, to this psychology and definition of is it a right investment for you? We've all got access to these tools to be able to invest in, but is it right for most people? That's another question.
Yeah, 100%.
Paul, could I make a recommendation for a book?
Go for it.
Actually, 2 books. You both like flowers to both of you. Not that you want flowers, maybe beers. Okay, beers, because what you're saying right now is what it means to be a savvy, intelligent investor. And many of you that probably have, those that do have investment understanding and background, or at least have been in that space, know that Warren Buffett didn't make most of his wealth until he was over 50. And it's been interesting. The 2 books that I've read back and forth ad nauseum several times is 1, The Psychology of Money. Number 2, The Intelligent Investor. These 2 books are super, super helpful for those that want to understand the world of crypto, even though it's talking about fiat, because it's also including derivatives and commodities, to Paul's point. And it will help people understand that this is a technological disruption of a traditional paper system of money that only came into play in the 1950s, I believe. And if memory serves me correctly from also reading the book recently. And I think that we have to look at that, because when we see the bigger ethos, and Paul says this a lot every Wednesday, it's the sovereignty, and Beja just said it as well. It's taking responsibility for when something goes right and taking responsibility and lessons learned when something doesn't go right. And that is something that's psychological. And it's a psychological engagement that you have with a relationship of money. Money's energy. Someone who has worth $1 billion in net worth also could be someone that's frivolous and loses it, right? We've seen it too. But these are things that we want. These are two books that I think will set some thoughts in your head that would help you approach the space, I think, a little bit more, with a little bit more light, with a little bit more pep in your step. Because if you see the disruption that's happening, you want to be on the ground floor. You want to be on the ground floor. You don't need to rush in. We're all still in the early stages, but you still want to be in the ground floor. So that's why I think reading these two books and, langzaam, as we say in Dutch, which is slow down, that will allow you to understand that a relationship with money is exactly that. It's energy. Same thing with love, same thing with friends, everything's energy. Sounds hippy-dippy, but I know some of the ladies and some of the folks in the audience would get that. It's energy. And money is an energy that's so powerful, you need to harness it. And I think what most of these regulations are in place to do is to make sure we don't get hurt, right? But think about this. Think about this very, very carefully. The regulations that you don't get hurt. Apple Pay takes about 30% of whatever goes through there. Just really think about that. I'll leave it there, but just think about that. Just recognize that big tech and large corporations, conglomerates, big multinationals, they take a lot of money out of the pockets of everyday people. Just be aware of that, because that's something I would take into your head when you read both these books if you choose to read them, but I highly recommend them.
Awesome stuff. Great shares as per usual. Because we've already just hit 8 o'clock, let's have a fancy jingle reset. Reset. I've turned to Sean Connery. Let's have a reset and we'll come back after this.
Are you going to make the coffee or what?
Yeah, that's what I was playing for time for.
Where's Ashley when you need him?
I know. Now I know. Now I understand his true. Sometimes I question the value of Ashley Shipman. Now I know it.
We'll be back after this.
You are listening to Breakfast with Winners. Exclusive content direct from the Winners Club. If you are enjoying the conversation, click on the green Monopoly house at the top of the screen right now and join the thousands of winners already in our community. For even more actionable content and powerful lessons, download the free companion app now. Just search for the Winners Club in the App Store or Google Play. For more information about the Winners Club and how to become part of our growing community, head to thewinnersclub.club. Now, back to the show.
So good morning, everybody. Welcome to Breakfast with Winners. If you're just joining us, we're here every single morning, 6:30 a.m. through till 9 a.m. or just after. And every single Wednesday, we discuss something around crypto. Now, if you're just joining us, just a quick caveat, nothing that you hear or we say in this room classifies as investment advice. So do not bet your house because somebody's mentioned something in this room. Nothing we say is investment advice. People do operate as scammers in this type of environment. Whenever we put the word crypto into a title, they all come out in false. So if somebody direct messages you with a link, don't click on it. Don't give away any of your passwords and all that sort of stuff. Just have some sense about yourself and keep yourself secure. So just be aware there is heightened activity from those sorts of bad actors whenever we put crypto in the title. So we are just always aware. We try our best to come in and delete people out of the chat and block people as quickly as we can, but you just be aware. That's what we should say first of all. So we're discussing, we started by trying to demystify crypto myths, and we've gone off in all sorts of tangents around regulation, retail investors, sophisticated investors, the tools that are available to us in all sorts of directions. And we're going to carry on working through some questions that we've got in the chat. Now, Chris, I don't know if Chris up on stage? I can't see. James is making the coffee, so I'm going to have to look for myself. Chris, if you're up on stage, unmic yourself. I know he's invited. There we go. I've just invited you up onto stage, Chris. So you should be there. You have a question. It would be better to hear the question from your own voice, if you can.
Hi, good morning. Yeah,
morning.
So my question was, I've got some ideas for a project that's sort of community-based I don't know nothing about crypto really yet, but I'm going to. But my idea was if you can get people to invest via crypto in a project, and then you need to buy materials or seek services from other people. What they do normally is they would look up and you'd want to say get paid in 30 days, payment terms, or 60 days. They would look up your business to see how risky your business is and whether or not they would give you credit, so you don't have to pay them straight away. But if you're basing your business around crypto, how does that volatility of the crypto affect it if you're trying to use crypto to run a project or a business? That was my question.
Okay, so I can tell you a little bit about what I know. Amy might have some ideas, and so may some others. So Tesla do this really well. They report digital assets in their balance sheet. So so their digital ledger or their digital asset balance, i.e. what they have in crypto holdings, sits on their balance sheet. And I know some other companies that do that. You can look at, I've recommended this before, but you can go and search on Tesla's website, look for their latest financial, click on the investor section, look at their latest financial accounts or latest set of accounts, and you'll see some text and some commentary from whoever's created the accounts, and then the section where they report on their digital asset. So you can still report it as an asset, and it can still sit on your balance sheet, and it can still be costed for. What they do is they convert back the value of their digital assets to a point in time that they obviously bought that, and then they put a dollar cost against it, and then they report it in dollars, so it sits on their balance sheet as dollars. So you can still account for it in that way. The crypto part just gives you a set of tools, Chris, that you can use for different elements of the investment. So take this mining operation that James was quizzing me on this morning, and the crypto mine that we're doing here. Now that the payment for those machines, those crypto machines, needs to be in pounds sterling. So I am going to have to come up with a way of, and the way we're funding that is like we've described, is by creating an NFT and selling the NFT. And the NFT is digital ownership, or is proof of ownership in that mining pool. And so it's like a fractionalization of the asset. So the NFT part is crypto, right? That's going to sit and live on the blockchain. It's a smart contract that's in the blockchain. But the minting part of that, the way somebody pays for that, gives me a wallet address, i.e. what we say in crypto terms, the on-ramp into crypto. That's going to be done via traditional Web 2, where you, just like you would check out on a page, you'll be purchasing that from a web page. That way I can charge you in pounds sterling, so that we've got no currency deficiency when we need to convert cryptocurrency back into sterling, because the supplier of the machines won't obviously take cryptocurrency, because there's many other suppliers down the supply chain and they all want to be paid in pounds. So that is a mixture of fiat currency being used with the crypto tool, which is the NFT, and the two worlds being mixed together. When you buy that NFT, you're still going to get that appear in your digital wallet. You're still going to physically see the NFT, but you would have paid for it using pounds sterling, not crypto, for that specific reason. So you could, depending on where I'm trying to go with this, Chris, is depending on what you wanted to invest and depending on how you wanted to do it, the payment doesn't have to be in crypto. So the community element of it, or the crypto element, could just be the way the voting is worked out, or the DAO, the Decentralized Autonomous Organization part. If you wanted to, I'm assuming you're going to have I'm making some assumptions here because of what I've heard you say before, but I'm assuming you want to launch a particular project and you want the investors of that project to be part of the decision-making process and the design process, et cetera, to some extent. Well, that, the voting right, the way that the voting is done could just be the part that sits on the blockchain. Somebody could make their investment in pounds. They could be given an NFT that appears in their digital wallet, and that NFT gives them voting rights in a decentralized autonomous organization or a community group where they can vote. So it's just, this is where this always goes back to, and to be honest, that's why we started the podcast. It's about real world use cases. We have a set of tools in front of us. There's no specific way to do stuff here in this world. You have to just look at all of the tools and the tech stack that you have in front of you and put that together in a way that suits your use case and be innovative in what you're doing to create a new way of doing things that breaks down maybe some of the traditional barriers that might already be there. And that's what, if you use crypto in the right way, other than just investing, now, if you use the solution of blockchain for business in the right way, it can break down a lot of the friction that's in place, which is how I described the mining operation this morning. In traditional world, you'd have to spend £20,000 to buy one machine. That's not affordable for many people. Not many people are in a situation where they'll be able to invest that. But most people, if they want to dabble and play in the crypto world and be involved in a mining operation, could afford £350 for an NFT, and they get the NFT as ownership. So it's just using the tools to create the best solution for you, Chris. So I hope that helps you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks.
Awesome stuff. Good question, good answer. Has anybody else got any questions? Because I'm aware that we are into the final stint, and we want to make sure it's as useful and usable for people as possible. So if you've got a question around the world of Web3, we're busting crypto myths this morning here on the Winners Club Breakfast with Winners. So give us a flash of the mic if you'd like to jump into the conversation or ask a question or anything like that. Oh, look at this! Look who's flashing, Marvin there. If you look at, is that not the most handsome stage you've ever seen there? Right, 4 rows down, you've got Toby and then Marvin. Both in like grayscale. Jesus Christ, Team Handsome. Go on, Marv, what you got for us?
I'm gonna keep it super.
Marvin's blushing.
Move swiftly on. I think I just want to go very, very briefly back to what you said about mining. Something I'm sort of looking into quite a bit, sort of before I jump into it. But one of the things that Paul mentioned in respect to the trading element to make sure that you get the best, not necessarily the best deal, but you make the most out of your mining activity. Because the trading part is an area that if I'm honest, I just don't have time for. There's a few. I've been investing in crypto for a long time, but there's a few core sort of coins that I jump into, and my back and forward is very sort of minimal. I wouldn't class myself as a trader. Let's just say that. So when it comes to mining, can you actually designate that activity to someone else, or is it if you get into the mining world, is it something you have to do yourself? That's my question, really, because obviously the mining side of things is very, very new to me. That's the question.
So there are pools out there where you can, and there are softwares that you can use, and you can pull your mine. If you bought a mining machine and plugged it in under your desk at home, you could mine as part of a pool, and you could have an element of allowing the pool to manage that type of your machine to do the best for you. But that's effectively what we're creating. We're creating our own mining pool where people can have fractionalized investment in that by buying an NFT. Now, the trading psychology behind it, there are some coins that take longer to mine than others. So what you want to do, and there are some that you can mine relatively quickly. So from a trading perspective, and a strategy, you would mine the coins that are quick to mine, and then you would trade them out or swap them for a more stable coin that's of more perceived value, if that makes sense. So you might not mine Ethereum, you may mine another coin, and you may swap that for Ethereum. So the asset that you hold may be Ethereum, but the mining activity is conducted in another coin that's being swapped out. And so there's a few factors to that going on in the background, but generally that's the strategy behind that. And yeah, I'm sure there are some, centralized pools out there or communities that are pooling together to mine. Definitely for a fact, I know there are, and there's some softwares, but that's effectively what we're going to do. We're going to create and manage that pool of mining machines, and then effectively just distribute out the rewards, or the crypto that's generated from the mining activity will be distributed out automatically on a monthly basis to all of the holders of the NFT in the cryptocurrency that the community decide to want to take that in. So because there'll be a DAO element, the community will be voting on what currency to take at the end of each month, and then that will be automatically distributed out to people.
Paul, could I add
Excellent.
something to that? That was
Oh, yeah, go on. Sorry.
Go for it, Emmy. Yeah.
No, it's okay because you've said some great stuff about mining, and I wanted to give you some information that Marvin could also may gain value from as well. When you're mining, that you've described it correctly. Building a rig, which is what we do, and I've built a mining rig before. Not many people know that, but it takes time. I mean, a mining rig back in 2016, 2015 to mine Ethereum would have put me back, if I chose to do it, I was building for friends. It was about $5K, $5,000. And the rig had to be put together with the cards and everything. And that's like how you make a rig where it won't cost you $35,000. It'll just be super transparent. You can build it yourself. It's not, I mean, I've done it. It's not complicated if you know what you're doing and you have experience with the tech and the hardware. I'm a bit of a geek, so didn't really fuss me a bit. Paul, one thing, there is a new set of machines coming out. Be aware of that. Number two, that machine's coming out by Intel, just letting you know. Number two, depends on what token you want to mine. That's absolutely correct. Because if you want to get into the Bitcoin world to mine Bitcoin, don't bother. It's because the machines are getting super, super clever, super fast. And Jack Dorsey and Intel and Block, they're really doing some powerful stuff to put the best machines are being created by Intel, which will be working to solve those computer problems fast as AF, right? Fast as AF. That means that will be a no-go. In the other side of it, there's a layer to what Paul's doing that I find really interesting, and he's making me very interested in his NFT project as well, because I see it in my head what he's doing. I would say the other part of that might be interesting to you is recognizing which tokens you're swapping into and recognizing if they have staking and lending and farms, because then you could strategically make some really nice gains for your, not financial advice, NFA, not financial advice, but the gains would come by how clever your strategy is to understand those protocols and which ones are moving faster than each other with what they're building. So if you want something to set it and forget it, the mining pool is a possibility for sure, because then you just plug it in, you get your machine and you plug it in. Another option is what Paul's doing, and you're already in this group, so I think it's a fantastic way to get involved. And it's a low entry point. Thirdly would be, kind of doing a little bit deep dive in some lending and staking, where the lending and staking and farming, Marvin, you just put it in and forget it. I mean, granted, it's high risk or higher risk, but this goes back to why I always talk to my clients. I'm always like, hey, the crypto space is not regulated in that manner. They're trying to, but it's not. So the reality is, if someone's looking for the literacy around investment, check out your investment risk profile first. And then from there, just start asking questions in rooms like this. And there's a lot of folks in this room that understand investment and property management and running businesses. And that's really where you're going to get the intersection of the knowledge, because the gentlemen here are super, super sharp women as well. And when you blend that with the tech, that's why I love coming in here Wednesday morning. When you blend it with the tech, this is the game-changing room for sure. I mean, I've had some really interesting people come to me that I've never heard from before that are really influent, like people in the space with millions of followers. And I'm like, wow. Breakfast with Winners, this club is getting some attention from this Wednesday in these conversations. So you got to celebrate that and high five all of you on stage and followed by the listeners, etc. You're doing a fantastic job in here. And I hope, Marvin, that descriptive answer, and Paul as well, for you as well, because of the project you're working on, I hope it gave value to both of you.
100%. And I'm glad that you actually jumped in, because I think that tapped into the follow-up question that I had, really, because everything that has been discussed today around the idea of the traditional sort of bank and the mindset that we have that's intrinsically linked to branding, really. So I mean, these big brands that people have grown up with is where the trust kind of comes from. And I think what we're seeing now, even with Breakfast with Winners, at the end of the day, it's a brand, and the ethos of that brand is the community spirit behind it. So at the same time, that for the people that are at that stage where they need to kind of be comfortable with a brand. That's definitely going to be something that's going to help them. But it's definitely a mindset thing. But just to the following question I had, which is what you touched on, Emma, in respect to the different ways that you can actually do it. It is the starting with the smaller coins, in inverted commas, or the coins that aren't the big coins like the Bitcoin and Ethereum and so on. Starting with the smaller ones that are easier to mine, and then swapping those out for the more stable coins. Is that the full extent of the trading that needs to be done? If we're talking about mining, or are there other elements that need to be considered? I won't ask any more questions.
No, Marvin, no, thank you. Marvin, you nailed it. That sentence right there, I'm so grateful that you were able to ask that question and you just answered yourself. To the first level, you've just answered yourself. You know it. You would do that and then convert it to a stable coin if you want the least drama-filled approach. Paul was talking about, like, clearly there's people in this audience and in the stage here that have a lot of expertise with investment, trading, commodities, derivatives. That's fantastic. That's amazing. But you're right, Marvin. If you want to spend the time to do that, sure. I don't, personally. But you just nailed the simplest, process, which is mine, convert to stable, wait for an opportunity to buy, and step in. 4 steps. Pew, pew, pew. I mean, I'm just being honest. Don't overcomplicate it. Investment is simple. It's absolutely your psychology of your mind when it comes to money that is what makes or breaks people. Because DCA, dollar cost averaging, is the best way to invest ever. But people find it complicated because they feel like, oh my God, it takes too much time to set up. But the reality is you could DCA with crypto. You could DCA with crypto and be solid, because you have to have moderation. You can't go, I'm going to say it, can't go balls to the wall, sorry, but you can't, because you got to watch out, because the space is even more volatile and it's not completely built out. So when I heard the comments about commodities, I smiled. When I heard comments about derivatives, I smiled, because we're already in discussions in different blockchains about those two major topics. And that quadrillion market has not even stepped into the crypto space formally yet. So keep that in mind, how early we are, my friends. Keep that in mind.
There's other parts, Marvin, to it as well and again, it all just goes down to how it goes back to this argument of whether you're a retail investor or whether you're sophisticated in your way of thinking and you want to act as a sophisticated investor. Because then once you've got a certain type of crypto asset, there's staking pools that you can stake your assets, effectively locking them into certain pools, and you get a return on your investment. And there's all sorts of different investments that you could make that are follow-up investments beyond, I guess, the initial mining activity. So similar to how there is in the traditional financial markets, there's all sorts of ISAs and accounts and different financial tools that we have available to you if you're investing money in certain spaces. It's no different to the crypto world. Once you've got that initial asset that's been mined, you can put that to work in the best possible way in lots of different places. So it just goes down to how sophisticated you want to be. Like for how we'll be doing it as a pooled investment, because we have potentially thousands of NFT holders, we have a responsibility to manage that pool in the best possible way and get the best possible returns for the community in the pool. So we'll be using all of the tools available to us to ensure that happens. But again, nothing we say here in this room is investment advice. You have to caveat what you say with that. Chris made a good point. Chris said, I used to be part of a share group that operated down the local pub, got the best results. Goes back to the old school community, doesn't
exactly
it?
That.
Old school community.
Don't fix it.
Yeah. Right.
Can't digitally serve yourself a beer, though, can you? That's the only issue with that. There's no such thing. Well, I guess in the metaverse you probably can, can't you? Digital drinks. Anyone going to buy a digital drink? What a load of waffle.
I'm sure someone would probably try to sell it to you.
No doubt, in their pub in the metaverse on their meta land, served up by their meta barman in a meta glass, whatever. Anyway, right, gang, we have got about 30 minutes and a bit left. So if you'd like to ask a question or join in the conversation this morning, you are more than welcome to do so. We're covering off and dispelling crypto myths this morning here in Breakfast Winners. And by the way, because we had so many people asking for it, the link is pinned at the top of the room right now to this week's episode of our, we don't like to brag about it. Well, Paul doesn't, I do. I flipping love a brag. Our iTunes top rated podcast, number 7 investing podcast in the entire United Kingdom. Still in the top charts in Ghana, still in the top charts in Nigeria, still, I think we were in Belgium last week, big in Belgium. So there you go. We should get some t-shirts printed with that, big in Belgium, just like our logo or something.
Big in Belgium.
We could, yeah, we shouldn't do that. But yeah, if you'd like to go and check it out, we talk about crypto mining. We cover it off in 18 minutes. We explain the basics that you need to understand about crypto mining in just 18 minutes. And the whole premise of that podcast is kind of like an extension of these conversations, frankly, is almost the extension of these chats that we have. It's to make it simple and understandable for people who've got businesses.
Well,
in
it's
the real
education,
world.
isn't it? It's education.
Yeah.
Gary Vee done this in the best way when he was launching VFriends. He, for months and months and months, he was talking about it and he was educating his audience.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what Beju touched on earlier. So when the point came where you're asking the audience to take action or to have a play in this world, that we all have enough education to
make the decision,
to be able to make the decision and take the first step. That's not to say the solutions that we're coming up with are the answer to everybody, but it's allowing people to have enough education to make the decision when the moment is right to have that play in this world.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was the whole idea behind it, wasn't it? And the concept is to just share our knowledge and educate people as best as possible.
Exactly.
On the basic concepts, and yes, we could go deeper with the podcast, and there's certain people that have said to me, you could have spoke about that for a lot longer, and we could do, but some other podcasts speak about certain subjects for 3 hours, and I know by my attention span, I'll turn off.
Yeah. What was the feedback that we got? I'm trying to find the actual.
What the review that someone left us.
The title of the review is very good, 4 stars from Cash Catapulter. So that maybe tells you everything that you need to know. Whilst I find the Coin Bureau podcast better and more entertaining overall, these shorter podcast episodes about crypto are an excellent resource and very informative. Thank you for taking the time to share your experience and your thoughts about all things crypto.
Thank you.
The most backhanded compliment ever. Whilst I think you're a little bit crap, you're all right. 4 stars.
Or you could just come straight out of it like the guy did this morning and just say this room is bullshit.
Yeah,
but he was still there listening.
That was another one. Unfortunately, someone kicked him out of the room.
Me.
Oh, was it you? I was trying to engage in the conversation.
He private messaged me as well to tell me it was bullshit. So
did he?
That was just one step too far.
Oh, fair enough. If I respect the commitment, frankly. I mean, if you've got an opinion on something, then why not go all in? Anyway, there we go. Right, if you've got a question or a query that you'd like to ask this morning or you'd like to contribute to the conversation, feel free to give us a flash of the mic. This room is all about how Web3 and the sort of the crazy, weird and wonderful world of Web3 actually interacts with our real-world businesses and our entrepreneurial ventures, because we are, as a community, the biggest gang of entrepreneurs here on Clubhouse.
Mike's flashing, our friend Mike.
Oh, good God. What's he going to say? Go on then, Mr. Telecom. What you got for us?
Well, thank you for that kind introduction. Blah, blah. Right, so quick question. Excuse my naivety, but is it possible to mine crypto within a virtual environment without having to buy all this hardware?
Yeah, there are. Yeah,
PI network, well, looks like you can do it on your phone. Yeah, get rich quick overnight.
Well, yes. So no, somewhere down the line, someone has to have the hardware, but there are collective schemes that and pools that you can join. For instance, I'm not going to mention them because, like we say, it's not investment advice here, but there are collective schemes where you can just go and commit some money to, and be part of a mining pool and invest. No different to what we're explaining in the mechanism we're setting up, where you would buy an NFT, and that NFT ownership is you would get whatever your share is, and however many NFTs you own, that would be your share in the investment pool. So you technically don't own any hardware. You just own a membership to the community, which gets paid out the rewards that are in the pool. And there are a few platforms that allow you to do that. You can just stake your money in the investment pool. And get returns. You're never going to get the best returns as if you was actually involved in the mining operation, like really close to it, and with some element of ownership of hardware, which is what we're trying to do by breaking down that barrier to entry and allow, for a lower value NFT ownership, you've got ownership of the mining operation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I get that. Thanks for that. Well, I'm definitely up for the NFT, and stick me on the waiting list for the basement tour.
Yeah, I need to actually, Mike. I need to message me, WhatsApp me. We're in a WhatsApp group together. WhatsApp me because I need to speak to you about a white labeled VoIP system.
No problem, buddy.
Can you sort that for me?
Could I just add one thing? Can I add one thing?
Yeah.
When you talk about you're talking about cloud mining, and this is going to be what it sounds like Paul will be doing, cloud mining, because he'll be facilitating the boxes, the rigs, and you will just be sort of partaking in the rewards, right? Currently, I don't know if I don't believe, well, I'm not going to speak for Paul, but Paul, will you be doing the big kahunas, or are you just doing the ones that you're going to convert in? You're going to be doing the big guys, Bitcoin and ETF, blah.
Yeah, we're doing ETH. We're not doing Bitcoin. We're sticking away from Bitcoin.
Okay.
But we're doing everything else. Yeah.
So that's cool. So you're doing other. Okay, cool. That's what I was asking. So now, I do know a buddy of mine that I know from this app, and I've been part of a club with them for quite a while. He moved his entire his Bitcoin mining facility from China to the United States to Texas. I was given a specific ones to look out for that are good, because you have to understand that in these mining pools as well, they're not all good, and they can also be scammy. I put this in the chat early when I couldn't speak. So if you're curious about that one, just tweet at me on Twitter, and I'll tell you which one it is. And Paul, if you're curious, I'll just send you the DM of which one it is, because then at least it's good for you to know, because that's for the big boy. That's for the Bitcoin, and that's for the big boys. And it's reliable, it's been trustworthy, and it's not advice. It's coming from someone who owns a Bitcoin mining farm himself. So if someone with a Bitcoin mining farm with hundreds and hundreds of miners that mine Bitcoin, you want to at least take that bit of information with a little bit more than a grain of salt. So if you're interested, tweet at me, and Paul, happy to send it to you if you want to pass it along as well.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate that. Amy, you're a treasure. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome.
Good stuff. Right. We've got about 25 minutes left, so we're discussing all things crypto as we do every single Wednesday. So a flash of the mic if you're on stage and you have a question, or you want to participate in the conversation. If you're in the audience and you want to raise your hand and come up and ask a question, you're more than welcome to do so or participate. All we ask is that your account is connected to a social media network so that we can... someone's turned the hand raising off.
That was me. I'm going to turn it back on again. So we've got fresh hands.
All we ask is that your account has an actual physical profile picture, or will we accepting NFT pictures? I guess we've got to really.
Yeah, we'll accept
NFT pictures, but we just need your account to be connected to a social media platform.
We just need to know you're real.
Just verify you're real and not a spammy bot.
Because you're getting a fair few people who are just like, hey, would you like to have a private chat with me? I'm like, not really. Not really at all, but thanks for asking.
Depends what they got to talk about.
Well, based on the pictures, they don't really want to do much talking. They want to do sexy texting.
Really? You get those messages in this room?
Yeah. I mean, I might look like a receding eagle, but...
I don't know what that says about your character or your persona.
Imagine how much Toby and Marvin are probably getting. Their inbox must be filled with offers. That's all I'm saying. # Team Handsome. Anyway, the hand raise is now open. I can only imagine how uncomfortable I make them too. It's hilarious. Right, give us a flash of mics if you'd like to contribute to a conversation. Or as Paul mentioned, click onto it's not a hand raise button anymore, is it? Do you still put your hand up? Do you have to click the clipboard? I've got a new layout. You seen that?
I can see that, but yeah.
So the money that they haven't spent on rewarding their influencers, they've now spent on some fairly ropey design. So now your hand raise is a clipboard, which makes no sense whatsoever. So yeah, tap on the clipboard if you'd like to contribute to the conversation. That is now the equivalent of a hand raise. Or if you are a little bit shy, I get there's some shy people in here. That's all good. That's fine. We accept introverts, extroverts, and everyone in between. You can ask your question in the chat. So you can click onto the bottom left-hand button. And you can ask your question in the chat, like Janae has done. Janae said, what's a DCA? I don't know. A dominant coin authority. That's what Paul is. He's a DCA. He's a dominant coin authority.
Nay, it's
dollar cost averaging.
Okay, sorry, I didn't know where that conversation had come from.
No, it's okay, but we're learning.
Yeah, so it's basically buying. It's basically investing a set amount of money that you can afford to lose. Let's caveat with that on a regular basis, regardless of the price of the asset. So effectively, if you said that Bitcoin is the one that you want to buy or Ethereum is the one that you want to buy, you would say to yourself, right, every month I'm going to buy £100 of or $100 of Ethereum, regardless of the price. And you just repeatedly buy that every week or every month or every quarter, whenever you want to do it. And a lot of the on-ramp platforms for crypto, such as, well, we said it, Coinbase, Crypto, there's a few other ones, but a lot of the sort of the platforms that allow retail investors to get involved in crypto, they have facilities that you can set up there to do that automatically. You can put your debit card details in, they'll just purchase £100 at the same time every single month. It's a bit like when you used to, in the old days, set up a private pension and then send £100 a month from your bank account to a private pension. No different, really.
No different, apart from this will probably be there when you get to retirement age. And your pension might not.
Well, yeah.
It's not financial advice. It's just the opinion of one genuine idiot. So there you go, DCA. But it is dollar cost averaging, but it's also dominant coin authority, which is Paul has got that as a lapel badge now on all of his suits for when he goes to the fancy banking dinners on Thursday. You should get that. What would you wear for that sort of event? Is that like
no, cash.
Is it cash?
Yeah, cash. Anyway, so we asked some of the, so we answered some of the other. Is there any other questions, or have we got some of the other?
No, we've literally answered every query that anyone's got about crypto. We've now answered it. So job well done. We could retire from understanding crypto. Frankly, we've done it. If anyone is on stage who's got a question or query, feel free to. It's been a very quiet room, hasn't it, this morning?
It's because the legend himself is not here.
People are busy waking and baking. No, I'm joking.
It's because the legend himself, Mr. Ashley Shipman's not here. He's in bed with COVID.
People are. Oh, really?
Well,
allegedly, we can neither confirm nor deny the state of Ashley's health or well-being.
Well, I hope he gets better. I also wanted to just share that if there's anyone in the audience that also has definitely questions about this, but I've also done a number of podcast interviews that if you want to hear even stuff outside of like the podcast that's for the Winners Club, it's always nice to have a good handful of podcasts that you could listen to that you trust and understand and you resonate with those that are speaking. So, I mean, they're on Spotify, they're on Apple, and they're on Apple, Spotify, and Google. And it's really interesting to get those different perspectives as well, because I tend to lean towards also getting more of that sovereignty conversation going that Beju was talking about taking personal responsibility. It's definitely always woven into like the conversations. And I like what Paul's doing with his podcast. I give him a high five on keeping it succinct under 30 minutes because I do the same. I think people have a bandwidth of a turn up sometimes. No offense to anyone, but we're going on with such busy lives that I think it has to be compartmentalized in chunks and you have to go away and process. So if you're driving, you don't want to pull over to the side and take notes. You want to at least dissect it and process it. And then write your questions in his comments inside the podcast. When you give that 5-star review, tell him what you want to hear. Tell the podcast folks, the ones that are creating it and producing it, what more questions you want to hear, because we always ask that. What questions do you want to hear more about? And that's how he's going to make even more fantastic podcast and reach a larger audience. I will also be doing a podcast in Spanish for those that are interested.
There's some on the Pointer podcast, actually. Obviously, the number one podcast to listen to is Understanding Crypto. Link at the top of the screen. But actually, Real Vision have got a podcast called Real Vision Crypto. That's very good. What Bitcoin Did is very good. I tell you who else. He's a friend of the show. Spencer Lodge's podcast is very, very very He's got some people who are doing some.
It's
real...
not all around crypto, but he's got some crypto guests. He
he's had quite a few on recently.
COO of Crypto.com, which was really fascinating to listen to that. Someone's asked
about Monday.
Yeah, someone's asked a good question in the chat. Jane did ask about XRP and XDC. Now, I don't know too much, but I'll tell you, I don't know what you wanted to know about that specifically. But so there are, for those of you that don't know, there's a bit of, I guess it's an arms race. Yeah, it is an arms race, really. The problem with crypto at the moment is that it's slow to do a transaction. And the main blockchains, the base layer of the blockchains, layer ones, just as some people call them, they are clunky. The best way to describe it is clunky and slow. which is, if you're going to do it, it's not instant settlement, it's not an instant transaction. If you compare it to Visa's network, which is one that we all use for payment processing.
Yeah.
I don't know the specifics, but Visa's ability to VisaNet, the ability for transactions per second, what is it?
It was 24,000 we looked up, wasn't it?
24,000 transactions a second?
Yeah. There was a lot of other stuff online. I was like, that's nonsense, you can't do that.
Right. So VisaNet's speed of transactions is fast,
a second,
which is obviously centralized.
Yeah.
And blockchain in its nature is decentralized. And there's, as we've discussed this morning, there's loads of nodes dotted all around the world that are contributing to that distributed ledger. So therefore it's slow. So in order for this to become mainstream, solutions need to be put in place to simply speed stuff up. Because, for instance, if we want to live in a world where social media is truly decentralized, okay, so this is one argument that Twitter's not decentralized, it's centralized. But how many tweets are there per second? Google that while we're there. I bet it's a ridiculous amount, right? So just for instance, if somebody wanted to build Twitter on the blockchain, that had a
6,000 tweets a second.
Yeah, 6,000 tweets a second. Okay, so if you wanted to build Twitter on the blockchain, and people are probably working on this now, the issues that you need to overcome is, firstly, if you wanted that to be an absolute record and ledger, so that it was sat on the blockchain, every single time a tweet was done, there'd be a gas fee, and every time that was put out there, it would be really slow. You'd press send or tweet, and it would take 7 or 8 minutes before your tweet would appear on screen. So it's really slow. So there are layer 2 providers or companies out there which are popping up, which provide, and actually there's a really interesting episode of the podcast, Layers of the Blockchain, which we sort of break this down as well.
Yeah.
So there are companies like XRP and XFin or XInfin, which is XDC, or Zinfin, I think that's how you pronounce it.
Zinfin.
That are trying to come up with the solution to that. So creating the network that provides a speed issue, that speeds stuff up and allows the ability for more transactions a second. There are many others out there. There's Polygon, Solana, there's loads of side chains that they're called, or layer 2 solutions that are being built to speed up that transaction processing issue. Each time they are formed, there was a cryptocurrency that was created on the formation of it. That's how they fund them. So an ICO, initial coin offering. XRP are in some hot water with the SEC, and there's it looks like they're going to win that, but it's been going on since 2020, I think, for a couple of years now. And this is where crypto regulation comes into it. There's a fine line between what classes as a security. So when you're doing an initial coin offering and you're allowing people to invest, the financial model behind that and the financial instrument behind that, and by people owning that cryptocurrency, does that class as a security or an investment? And if it does, then they are classed as a crypto business which needs a license in certain states or territories or certain places to operate. Same as here in the UK. If we was to do that here in the UK and it's deemed as an investment, then you would be in hot water with the FCA, and you'd have to regulate with anti-money laundering and KYC and all the stuff like that. So they're in a legal battle with the SEC over the fact that the way they've done their issuing to some extent, and this is, again, my limited knowledge of it, is that they are classified as a security. But what's really going on, if you break it all down, what's really going on, and they were very close to solving the biggest problem that's sitting there at the moment, which is speed and the ability for lots of transactions to be processed. And whoever wins that race and comes up with that solution that's the best mainstream solution is the next big tech.
Yeah.
Because that's the biggest issue that needs to be solved in order to make this mainstream. When you send a bank transfer on your bank at the moment, that's instant. You can send a payment from one bank to the other, and within reason, it's there instantly with the way fintech works. But crypto's still got a lot of work to do to make that happen and to catch up. So, there's movement and there's elements from parts of the world to shut down, as there would be resistance. We've spoke about real world solutions, so NFTs or smart contracts could be used in the legal environment or could remove third party law firms. Well, I bet your bottom dollar, whoever comes up with that solution to remove a law firm is going to get the top 5 law firms breathing down their neck, telling them that they're breaking all sorts of laws, because that's the way the world works. So, but it looks like...
Yeah, they're already doing that now.
Yeah,
they're
exactly.
Doing that now with smart contracts.
Yeah, so there's
just chime in with something after.
So there's the with XRP, they were close to fixing the issue, solving the problem. People are attempting to shut them down, but it looks like they're going to win the legal issues, and overcome that. But there are other layer 2 solutions out there that are solving the same problem. The other issue that's there at the moment is for every side chain that you go into, it just makes the ability to interact with this world even more complicated. So, for instance, you all of the Ethereum side chains that are out there, take Polygon is one that we were looking at using. You have to move money from fiat currency into Ethereum, you have to then swap it out from it or bridge it from Ethereum into Polygon. Then when you want to bring it all the way back, you've got to bridge it back. It's easier to learn a new language than it is to do all of those things if you don't understand that world.
In this world, really, you've got to unlearn stuff, haven't you? It doesn't make a lot of cognitive sense in the way that the current format is structured.
No, and actually where our hack came from, let's be honest, our hack came from interacting in layer 2s and trying to bridge out from one currency to another currency and move stuff around into various different wallets. That's how we were hacked. So it's still very complex. And so the big movers and gainers in that world are going to come from the tech that sorts that out and makes it more streamlined and solves the issue. That's where the big growth is going to come from. But yeah, SEC have attempted to shut down XRP. So that's my, Jane, that's my understanding of it and my thoughts on it.
I could give a little bit of a dovetail to Paul's XRP, a little bit of an update from about 18 hours ago, and also something because I've been following the XRP case, because the XRP is actually a layer 1. It's not a layer 2. And the unique part about XRP is it's been around much longer, but the challenge is when Ethereum back in 2015 split, Ethereum Classic, Ethereum, the SEC claimed and stated that Ethereum was not a security. And that was where the argument started to happen with XRP, because they were kind of like, well, if Ethereum is not a security, why are you going after us, right? So let's keep that into perspective. But recently, XRP has managed to win something very interesting with the judge, because they do have a letter that states, an email that states they did ask SEC to confirm or deny what they needed to do to be compliant. And they flip-flopped, and the judge allowed it to be submitted. So it was good for XRP, because basically SEC said one thing 3 years ago, and now they're saying something else, and they don't want it to be submitted. They're saying that what was that? I'm trying to paraphrase it. They're saying that SEC trying to say that Ripple did not know. But Ripple has evidence that they did know, because they did contact the SEC. So there's now a flip-flop, and now the judge has said that the SEC they're not going to allow the SEC they're going to allow Ripple to go with what the email was, and SEC kind of lost that piece of conversation. But that XRP is very interesting, because when we talk about TPS, transactions per second, there's the top 5 transactions currently, and I know the top 4 to the 5 is Algorand, not in any particular order, Algorand, Solana, Cardano, and Phantom. And just a little bit of one of those, Solana. Solana is a VC-backed blockchain. However, it's already been hacked, and it was drained of about 300 million, and it was put back. And I could correct those numbers because I don't have them memorized. But Google that, the hack that happened on Solana that drained a lot, like millions, and they put it back in. The VCs replaced it, like they fixed it by putting it back in, which is not how decentralization works. And one of the things that you do want to see around that experience or that exchange is that in order for it to be TPS of high numbers, you do need the security, as Paul just said. But now I'm going to be the Ethereum as I am. Ethereum has been around for 7-8 years, and they went through solidifying their security already. So as much as these Ethereum killers are coming forward, they're not solving the security problem, but Ethereum is already solving the security problem. They just don't have the fees down at the level that they can be feasible, right, for daily transactions. But when the ETH2 merge happens, which has been pushed out to the end of the summer, possibly the fall, that TPS is going to go up much higher. And at that point, there's going to be a first, second, and third in the row of TPSs that are fast on layer 2s. And Polygon is not a layer 2. It's a side chain. It's still a layer 1. It's just got steep fees just because of the way they were created. And I apologize if I'm not correct on the layer 2 of layer 1 Polygon, but I don't always memorize all these answers. So I'm really just speaking from memory, and sometimes the age pops in there. Joking, but not joking. But clearly, if I've misspoken on if it's layer 1, layer 2, I'll come back and correct it. So don't worry. I'm all about what Beju said. I'll always take responsibility. If I say something wrong, I'll come back and correct it. So thank you for listening to that little piece.
Yeah, the race for arms is all about scaling. How can crypto be scaled? Because at the moment it's still relatively slow and not comparable to existing financial networks that exist. So scaling and security is where all of the big growth and those big unicorns are going to come from when somebody can actually fix the issues.
100%. We've had lots of people in the chat joining in the conversation. Thank you guys for making it such an active chat this morning. Much appreciated. Hubert saying, guys, if you're here, tweet about the room. It's amazing to listen to these guys speak. What a lovely fella. Frank suggesting that we go and check out some guy. I'm not going to say that because I don't know who the guy is, so I'm not going to check it out. Maximilian has got a question. Not being funny, right? Is this not the best name of all time? Maximilian Figueroa.
Legend.
I don't even care who you are, what you do. You're a straight up legend just for that name. Maximilian If I was called Maximilian Figueroa, my life would be different now. I'll tell you what, I'd be on a jet. Do you believe that any other crypto aside from Bitcoin will be truly decentralized? Do you believe it's possible for a government to make their crypto the standard and restrict all others? Thank you for your considerations. So there's a couple of questions in there. Which one do you fancy picking?
We've only got that's a long question, and
that'll fill 7 minutes for us.
That would be a long answer.
Cheers, Maximilian.
Who knows, right? Who knows where all this is going? This is the thing, isn't it? Cryptocurrencies are not currencies. They're called currencies, but they're not. Like, if Bitcoin is the only real true financial instrument, isn't it, that exists at the moment, really, in terms of the leader, the big boy, the leader of them all. But then there's the argument: what is money? Money is exchange of value, isn't it?
Yeah. So
people are using Ethereum as an exchange of value or a store of value, although that wasn't what it was intended to be used for. So who knows? There is this. He's ghosted you, isn't he? The guy, the historian.
He has. He's fully ghosted me.
There's this.
I'll get him back.
Yeah, we're trying to get this historian on who I listen to on a podcast, and it's fascinating how the journey of decentralization to centralization to decentralization to centralization,
very cyclical.
How it evolves and how it becomes cyclical, and exactly as we've just described, the issue with decentralization and distributed networks is the speed of transaction. So it will never be and rival like a fiat currency payment system like Visa, because of the costs involved in the fees and the way the networks are set up and the speed and the cost of transaction, or the speed of transaction and all that stuff that goes with it. So then there's this but then it's on some sides it's secure. And then, as Amy said, the more scaling solutions that are put in place, the less people are pulling apart the security of them, so the less secure they are. So there's this battle between like security, scale, speed, centralization, decentralization, because in order to actually go and solve the problem and create a proper solution, it needs a requirement like Amy touched on. VCs have bowed out Solana because they can, and therefore it's not decentralized, is it? It's a centralized solution. So we will come, and my gut feeling is, and I'm not an influencer in this space at all, or a thought leader by any stretch, but that my feelings are that the solution is in a centralized model of something. It has to be, because it needs, one, the investment to scale it. It needs the knowledge, the education, the manpower, all of that stuff. And in order to create that, it moves more towards a centralized solution to the problem. So my feeling is there'll be a centralized solution to the problem that sits on the blockchain, that has an element of blockchain behind it working and calling themselves part decentralized, but they're not really. But yeah, what's the guy's name?
So I've been talking to Making Markets.
Making Markets. So go and have a search on Twitter for Making Markets and have a listen to some of the stuff that he speaks around the history of decentralization and centralization. It's fascinating to listen to. We are making every effort to get him to come on here in the Winners Club. The issue we have with American guests, it being completely honest, is our time zone issue. We're obviously UK 6:30 a.m. So it's a hard ask to sometimes. And if people are not aware of this community at all, to actually say to them, by the way, come and get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and come and speak to us. And they'll be like, who are these idiots? So
we've got a podcast.
Yeah. So it's when they come and spend time in the community, they're like, oh yeah, brilliant. It's a great place. I'll definitely get up at 2 a.m. and come and speak to you. But sometimes it's often a challenge with US based guests, depending where they are in the US.
On that note, if because I know some people who are already in the Web3 space doing bits, if you've got any connections to great guests that you think we should get them on and grill them maybe on their project or talk to them about what they're doing, or maybe they're an expert in their field, feel free to pop either myself or Paul. So for those of you who don't know, see we've got some newbies. I'm James at the top middle, and there's also Paul here on the left hand side at the top. Feel free to pop one of us a DM and let us know who you think that we should get on to have these conversations, because we have got the largest active community of entrepreneurs in Europe, according to Clubhouse. So it'd be useful for those people to come on and educate the audience, and I think it'd be great to get some new voices and some new thoughts on from that perspective as well. Just on as a quick follow up, Gary Henderson's in the room. Good morning, Gary Henderson. Hope you're well, my friend. Just on a quick follow up there from Maximilian. His grandfather's name, right? Not linked to crypto, but I like his name. So he's Maximilian Figuerero, right? His granddad's name was Puerto Riqueño. Imagine being called Puerto Riqueño Figuerero.
Puerto Riqueño.
Please don't correct me. Please don't correct me.
But everyone said my name wrong, so it's
Ame, I always know how to say your name correctly, but he actually specifically said that it's Spanish with a hint of Cockney London twang, so I've done it correctly. So get off your soapbox. Puerto Riqueño. There you go. Maximilian Puerto Riqueño. What a name. How do you say it properly, Ame?
That sounds like a designer brand or some sort.
Puerto Riqueño.
Puerto Riqueño. Where are you from originally?
My family's from Puerto Rico, but I'm from New York City and I'm based in Amsterdam.
Sí, muy bien. Mucho traveling.
So ahí está, lo puede hablar.
Oh, no, you've lost me. I've gone. I tried to give it loads and now I've gone. Right, some advice in the chat as well. We'll wrap up now. But thank you to CC or GGGG. But GGGG, she might just be a bot who's here to try and flog some books. But apparently The Changing World Order by Ray Dalio is a fantastic read.
It is. I've listened to the audio book. And
CCCC has come back and said she's not a bot. That is exactly the sort of language a bot would use, though.
Right, so I just end this in a minute. My kids like to play Fortnite, so we give them a bit of time, the video game, and it's nice because two of them play it together. So over the Easter break, we've got like a cinema room with a screen and stuff, and I went and sat in there and I'd play with them, and they'd teach me what to do to some extent.
You any good?
I was all right, so I thought. And then my son said to me, "Dad, you're a bot." So, what? What does that mean? He went, "You're botty." I went, "What does botty mean?" He said, "It means you're no good. You're rubbish." Right? So I said, "Okay, what does?" But it's the lingo, isn't it? So I went, "Well, what does good mean?" He went, "Sweat."
No.
He went, "Yeah, if you're sweaty, you're good."
If you're sweaty, you're good, and if you're botty,
yeah. So if you're good
bad.
at it, you're classed as a sweat, apparently. And if you're bad, you're a bot.
Jesus Christ!
But where do they get that from?
I don't know. The youth of today, hey?
They've made up the language themselves. Like
the youth of today.
10 years old and they're making that language up themselves.
Well, I tell you, you should have said to him, well, I might not be good at Fortnite, but I tell you what, in the crypto world, I'm well sweat, bruv. He wouldn't know what to do with himself, would he? Well, which one's that? Is that your lad that's
Well, he said, "Dad, I'm so sweaty." I said, "Well, do you want me to turn the heating down?" That was my first response to him. And he looked at me and laughed. And he went, "Dad, you're an idiot." I said, what are you talking about?
Got too old.
What are you talking about, being sweaty? He said, "No, it means I'm really good." Oh, okay.
I'm sure we did this as kids. What was it back in the day when we were kids? Like, so it was good, it was fat. Do you remember that?
I don't even remember
that. Tune is fat. Do you not remember that? I was a bit of a chav, to be fair. I've overcome those days, though.
I was from East London, not South London. There was a difference.
I was actually from Buckinghamshire as well, posh.
Well, that says it all then.
I've been dragged.
You were just pretending to be slang.
I've been dragged through the rough end of East London by my wife. She's roughed me up. And not in a good way. Anyway, it's 9 o'clock.
Fat with a PH, yeah.
Fat
definitely.
with a PH, yeah. Right. Good to have you all with us this morning. Thank you for tuning in. If you do want more information, or if you've any of the subjects that we've covered today have tweaked your engagement, then feel free to go and click the link that's at the top of the room right now. Understanding Crypto comes out every Wednesday. This week's episode is What is Crypto Mining? We try and break it down as simply and as easily for people as possible. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 6:30 a.m. Have a fantastic day wherever you are around the world, whether you're starting your day, ending your day, or it's the middle of your day. Have a good one, and we will see you tomorrow morning, 6:30. Lots of love from the Winners Club. Ta-da! Goodbye.